baby. Extra bright, I want y'all to see this. Turn up the lights in here, baby. You know what I need. Want you to see everything. Want you to see all of the lights.
All right, so we were just talking about recruiting. National Signing Day was the other day. That's basically what we're going to talk about probably most of this podcast. This is Ordinary People, Episode 8. We got Dan on again. He was the headliner of Episode 2. I think a lot of people enjoyed that podcast. I know we both did.
We did.
Talked about a variety of things, and I wanted to get together and do a National Signing Day thing. And we were talking about the Big 12 because we had mentioned quarterbacks, and somehow Kansas Jayhawks had a better ranking recruit. I know the rankings don't mean a whole hell of a lot, but the fact that KU had a higher ranked class than K-State is just amazing. And I think Dan mentioned, when does Bill Snyder call it a career? And I said, well, I think he's afraid that his son won't be named the new head coach, and I don't know that the university wants him to be the head. I don't know. The K-State fans that are friends of mine know this way more than I do, so feel free to kick my ass in the comments section of this podcast. But
well, I made the comment. They should probably bring Ron Prince.
Ron Prince, and I said, you really want to piss off my K-State fan friends, mention Ron Prince, and they'll go through the ceiling, because what a disaster that was.
But we know about as much about him as we do about Schneider's son. So.
I actually know more about Ron Prince than I do Snyder's son. We thought, and he mentioned, remember when they stole Josh Freeman from us? And I'm like, well, that's okay, because I didn't think he was, world beater anyways. And then we mentioned Blaine Gabbert the same way.
Yeah.
And it was funny because then we said Blaine Gabbert's like still in the NFL, or the last couple years he left, but you mentioned that the 49ers were so desperate they actually started him over Colin Kaepernick 2 years ago.
When you're talking about a quality quarterback and you've got those two on the roster and you start Blaine Gabbert, you're in trouble.
There's something wrong, man. And is Jimmy Garoppolo good enough for the highest paid contract in NFL history, or whatever it was, the highest paid player right now?
I think 7 wins for the 49ers right now that are desperate. Like, he's not the answer, I don't think. But I mean, like, they're still living off of Joe Montana and Steve Young. I mean, that's sad.
Yeah. So I don't know about that, but $137 million over 5 years, and I don't know how much of that's guaranteed. The NFL contracts, there's so much of it that you have to do so much to even finish out the contract, let alone get 100% of the money. Which also is crazy about those NBA contracts, because they are 100% guaranteed, and some of those contracts are insane.
Well, I hate to say let's talk Cleveland real quick. You flipped the whole team.
Didn't they trade 7 players?
7 players in a round robin trade, and you don't know exactly who's coming to your team and how much you're going to pay them, because they're talking about now all the numbers and stuff like that. I wouldn't guarantee any of them. Everything should be performance.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball has proven that to us, if anything.
Right.
And Cleveland now should prove that we should head that direction, because they're such a mess. I mean, Kevin Love's your second best player on there.
He is now.
Scary. Scary.
But I know a lot of NBA fans that are friends of mine that they were glad that they got rid of Isaiah Thomas's ass.
Yeah.
Because they said he wasn't even that good on Boston. He just fit their system better.
Well, systems anymore make good players. I mean, we can all debate about Tom Brady being the greatest, but the system has really made him.
And when Belichick's your coach, I mean, it's like Bill Parcells, man. Well, they coached together, too. I think we mentioned that on the last podcast, that when Scott Frost was graduated Nebraska and was drafted, he was drafted by Bill Parcells to play safety, and his defensive coordinator was Bill Belichick.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, when you come into the NFL and those are the first guys you learn from.
And the coaching tree that comes out of that, that comes out of Parcells and out of Belichick, if you look at it, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And they're head coaches or coordinators. I mean, we're not talking about 1 or 2 guys. We're talking 20, 30 guys all across college and pro.
Yeah, and to bring it back to college, wasn't it that way that Iowa Hawkeyes some year in the 80s staff, they produced a whole bunch more head coaches, and then Bill Snyder did the same thing at K-State, and wasn't he on that Iowa staff?
Yes.
Okay, and then he had Mark Mangino for a while.
Yeah.
The TCU coach. what the hell's his name. Damn it.
I know who you're talking about. Gary Zimmerman.
Gary Anderson?
Anderson, that's it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
And
if we're wrong, sorry, but TCU's had Gary Patterson. That's his
right.
name.
Yep,
Gary
Patterson.
Yeah, and then you see, I guess Steve Spurrier had Bob Stoops.
Yeah. Well, I mean the Stoops family alone. I mean, if we're getting into coaches, I mean, Mark is over at Kentucky. And then we can also branch off into how many people they've stolen from Nebraska.
Right.
So sorry to get off topic, but their coaching staff.
This is the topic.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Man. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else. Now, and even Urban Meyer kind of does that, except when he picks up guys, he usually keeps assistants.
Well, and he destroys other teams by stealing their assistants. I mean, we see that he just took Grinch from, or is it Ginch or Grinch or whatever the hell, from Washington State, the defensive coordinator.
Mike Leach's defensive coordinator.
Yeah. And he took him, and then he put him with Schiano, who
Greg Schiano, that's who I was thinking of.
Got smashed for the Tennessee job and had to come back. And now you're co-defensive coordinator instead of the lone defensive coordinator, which they weren't that good on defense last year. I mean, Bosa carried the line. He was amazing. But those two coaches, I mean, together, kind of weird.
Yeah, and gosh, what was I going to say? I'll come back to that. It was something about when Schiano didn't get that Tennessee job. Wasn't it because everybody started rioting because he was part of the Penn State staff during the Joe Paterno and Sandusky thing?
The early part of it, because remember he coached at Rutgers too.
Yeah,
and then he went to the league.
Yeah, and he failed.
Failed miserably.
But that's because of him winning a conference championship at Rutgers. That makes Nebraska the only team in the Big Ten, or the team that hasn't won the conference championship for the longest time.
That's crazy.
Because he won a Big East championship with Rutgers. He had two awesome running backs. Well, one of them was Ray Rice. And then he had that fullback, and he had that fullback, and he was like a smaller Mike Allstott. I can't remember his damn name, but he was super good. But yeah, you look at every team. Of course, Ohio State's won. Penn State won last year, or 2 years ago. Michigan's won in the early 2000s. Maryland, who the hell did they have? It was back when they were in the
Big East.
Big East also. I think it was 2001.
Yes.
Because they had, was it E.J. Henderson was their middle linebacker?
Yep.
And then who was that running back they had? He was a giant too. But they won the conference that year. And then I guess somehow Minnesota won the conference when they had Marion Barber.
Yes.
And what the hell is that other running back? They had two amazing running backs, Lawrence Maroney.
That's right.
And they both played in the league. And of course Iowa has won.
It's been years.
With Ferentz, it's been a while. I think it's 2003 or 4 or 5.
I think, yeah.
Because Ohio State won it in 04 with Troy Smith, I believe.
Yes. But then they had a little bit of a fall off, and I think that was Iowa the next year.
And of course, Wisconsin, they beat our ass a couple times. Michigan State,
what a mess.
Yeah, I had a buddy a couple years ago. He's like, Ohio State's gonna get it, man. They should get in. I'm like, they're not gonna beat Michigan State in the conference championship game, and then they didn't. And then of course Purdue won with all the quarterbacks: Curtis Painter, Drew Brees. Indiana won the conference. Was that with Anton Randall?
Yes. That was, 90...
That was 98 or 99 or 2000.
Yep.
Because I had a PlayStation
And then he had to go to wide receiver in the league. He played for the Steelers, I believe.
Yeah, and so did Brad Smith from Missouri.
Right.
Remember they called him Slash because he receiver, punter, quarterback, kick returner.
He did everything. And Northwestern and Illinois. I mean, like Illinois, what a mess that Lovie Smith had to come into. I mean,
wasn't 60 or 70% of his roster this year freshmen and sophomores?
Oh yeah.
And he started 6 or 7 true freshmen.
Yep.
If he gets it going, man, that might be a team to reckon with.
Well, I mean,
now they suck.
If you think about that, it's sort of like the Charlie Strong situation.
Yeah.
Coming into Southern Florida, and Charlie Strong's turning it around though.
Yeah. They gave him a raw deal at Texas.
Yeah, they did.
2 seasons.
Yeah.
But he did lose to Kansas.
Well, yeah.
When the hell did Illinois win the conference since '99?
Oh, it would have to be because they had a standout quarterback. It was
They had that awesome receiver and that awesome defensive end that
Yep.
Ron Zook recruited.
Yep, and it was Zook. It was like his first or second year. It wasn't. It
Okay,
wasn't too
'cause
long into it.
He didn't last too damn long either.
Yeah, well, Zook. I mean, then he came from Florida, right? No,
Yes.
he got fired from Florida.
Got
then
fired from Florida,
Yep.
and then they hired Urban Meyer.
which was an amazing hire.
Yeah, he won 2 Heismans with the
Yeah.
same guy. I actually thought Chris Leak would have won the Heisman.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But then, Tim Tebow stole the show and he won 2.
Yeah.
And then, Northwestern. And since they're a academic school, they have limited scholarships, right?
They have limited scholarships, and their academic standards are much higher than everybody else's.
It's like Stanford and Notre Dame or something.
Like it's impossible. Like if you're on the border, it's impossible to get in. You're not getting in.
Yeah.
That's why, I mean, they have smart players. They don't necessarily have better, like 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, or whatever. They have smart players like Stanford. Stanford doesn't always get, like, your top-tier guys, but they get smart guys. And I hate to say it, sometimes smart football players outplay the talented guys because they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Oh, man. So, that was really amazing. We were talking about the press conference.
Yeah.
Scott Frost is awesome in press conferences, and we really enjoy. I think I've watched the signing day press conference 3 times.
Yeah.
I watched it back to back, and then the next day I watched it again. But nice socks, by the way.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And then Damon Benning was back there, and he felt so comfortable asking his question. He forgot to formally announce Sharp and Benning in the morning. And he's like, sorry, Damon Benning, Sharp and Benning in the morning. It's funny. He's like, I played with this guy in college. I don't need to announce who I am.
Well, that's what's funny about these guys. Like, they feel some kind of comfort with Scott Frost. Like, with Pelini and Riley, you didn't feel that comfort. And the fact that he can make the comment, nice socks, to a reporter, most coaches don't talk to reporters like that. You know, like Mike Leach does, but
he's just crazy to begin with. And Nick Saban's always interesting to listen to his press
Well,
conferences.
he's like Belichick almost.
Yeah.
Is Tom Brady hurt? I don't know. He's on the injured list.
Yeah, what do you think?
He's going to play tomorrow, though. I mean,
right. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of coaching trees, Saban's another one. Kirby Smart's his old defensive coordinator.
Just scored a huge class.
Yeah, I was going to say, goes to Georgia. They end up playing each other in the national championship. Saban beats him, so Kirby Smart blew everybody in the nation away with the class he signed.
Top 2 running backs in the nation.
And I think he had the top offensive lineman, tight end, the second quarterback. The first-ranked quarterback went to Clemson. The second-ranked quarterback went to Georgia. He got a defensive end, linebacker. He had 8 5-star guys.
Yep.
There was only one other team that had 3.
Yep.
And that was Clemson, I think.
Yep.
And nobody else had more than 2. Alabama had 1.
Well, and Alabama's falling. Not like terribly, but they're falling out of the top. And like, there's a correlation between your top 10 teams and your top 10 recruiting classes.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see that these kids want to go play and they don't want to sit, finally.
Yeah. Nebraska got the number 1 kicker in the nation out of Alabama. And then Georgia flipped the number 1 wide receiver. Well, he was the number 1 player in Alabama, and he was a wide receiver. They flipped him, and he came to Georgia. And then Scott Frost went down to Georgia and flipped that defensive end or outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Which...
When they said he's going to be like Shaquem Griffin.
Yeah.
His name's Caleb Tanner.
Yeah, here he is right here. 6'3", 225 outside linebacker, Stone Mountain, Georgia, Middle Grove High School, 4-star recruit, and he was committed to Georgia, and Scott Frost flipped him.
and he flipped him like last minute. It was
it was the day before signing day.
Yeah. You know why he flipped? So the story was on this morning. It was on 24/7 or Huskers 24/7. They went to meet him at a school, and his mom works in the cafeteria, and she was cleaning up the cafeteria. Scott Frost actually went and helped her put chairs away and actually helped him clean up the cafeteria.
Wow.
And they wrote about that. She said she was so impressed with him actually pitching in and helping that's what made her want her son to go there. Which is, I mean, I don't know many head coaches that are going to lift a finger to do anything other than talk.
That's crazy because he was recruited by Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida, Florida State, LSU, Tennessee, West Virginia, Mississippi, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Central Florida, Memphis, Missouri, Maryland, Ohio, Rutgers, and KU. So,
Which is a hell of a list.
It's a hell of a list.
And the thing is, like the atmosphere that Scott Frost, I feel like in this class has brought, you can see the toughness from the films these kids have. You know, like that kid has a super impressive film. And I was talking to one of my friends the other day at the gym, and I said, you know, the one thing that I remember is when I was a kid, you hear people like Mike Minter and Ralph Brown hit people, and you can hear them up at the top of the stadium. We were talking about that Cam Jones kid. When you can hear somebody get hit from the top of the stadium, that just shakes the other team to the core. You know what I mean? We haven't had that for years.
Yeah, Mike Minter was always my favorite safety.
Yeah.
And Damon Benning was talking the other day on the Super Six.
Yeah.
Cameron Jones was his number one player.
Yeah.
And he said the reason is because, one, nobody high points a ball like him. And he said, to give you an example, go somewhere into a field, start jogging, and then look up and see what happens to your body.
Yeah.
And he said he high points a ball like no other. And the other thing he said was anything he hits stops.
Yeah. Oh,
so that's badass. That's
he was
awesome.
hitting some huge running backs in his film. You know, and to see a kid play safety in an open field tackle, a running back, a guy who's running full steam, and just knock him down is so impressive. We haven't had anybody hit like that. I mean, they thought P.J. Smith years ago was going to be the kid to come in and just nail people. P.J. Smith ended up doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they thought Larry Asante was going to do that. And he was good, but he wasn't that amazing. Yeah, I thought, who am I thinking of now? There was a linebacker that played for Pelini out of Jinx, Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
I can't remember his damn name.
His brother was supposed to come here, too. Dillard. Philip
Dillard. He did hit people pretty damn hard.
He did.
And he weighed about 250 pounds.
Yeah. And you know what was really funny is, like, he was a slow starter. Like, it took him forever to get good. And some of these kids that are coming in, they look good now. Like, hey, I'm going to play you, which Scott Frost did that with UCF.
Yeah.
You know, and we need that.
Yeah, talking about the press conference again, he was talking about how he told all the guys, he's like, look, we're going to have fun, but we got a lot of work we have to do. And I think one thing, the atmosphere is going to change. Because under Mike Riley, it was like just like the first teamers were practicing against each other, and everybody else was standing around.
Sitting on a knee.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know whether a lot of people saw that when they took pictures in the paper and stuff. I don't remember Osborne, any of those pictures, ever showing somebody on a knee.
No, they had, I think at one point he said when he was coaching, they had 4 different groups of 11 on 11 going against each other, and it was the first teamers, the backups, the third string, and the walk-ons. And then if you were a walk-on that impressed, you moved up. And it was stuff like that. He said everybody was practicing, and it went to show that when he put the backups in, they still kicked everybody's ass. And when guys graduated, what was it, 94? They graduated 4 senior offensive linemen.
And they all went to the league.
Yeah, they all went to the league.
2 of them in the first round, I believe.
Yeah, I think Wiegert and Stye both went in the first round. I think they were, I don't want to guess, I thought they were top 10 or 15 picks, but they both got Heisman votes too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we talk about linemen, when's the last time that anybody's seen a Nebraska lineman really dominate, like an actual kid from Nebraska?
A lot of them go to the NFL, but they didn't dominate in college like those guys used to. Because one of the things, and to bring up big hitters, Tony Ortiz.
Oh.
Because one of the things after Scott Frost was talking about that, he said, we're going to change the atmosphere at practice, and we're going to change the weight room. And guys have to go in there and compete against each other and cheer each other on, and not just go in there and do a workout and go home.
Each weight rack used to have guys' names. Like, not like guys' names like, hey, this is assigned your weight rack. They were records on the floor. Like, people had to, like, try to beat. Like we don't have that atmosphere anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember them talking about guys, squatting 800 pounds. You don't hear that anymore. You don't hear about the big numbers anymore. And we can be somewhat honest. In the 80s and 90s, I mean, like, there was a lot of other stuff going on, and those guys were gigantic. But there's no reason that these kids can't compete with everybody now, and there's no reason we have the technology. I mean, Nebraska's facilities are top of the world,
And so much more nutrition knowledge than there used to be.
Oh.
The way workouts are done. I remember in high school, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, bench. Tuesday, Thursday, squat and power clean. No. One body part per week. Break it up. You get your biggest gains from the most time you take off.
Well, and I think a lot of the high school stuff, a lot of the things that you see, these kids come out of high school, they don't know how to work out, and I hate to say it, we're seeing it now. We're seeing the effect of them not knowing how to work out at high school, and also having a strength and conditioning program now in college that didn't work, because now they're having to restructure everything. Mm-hmm. These kids are going to have to do 60-some snaps a game and can't even do 20 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I played with guys in high school that worked out twice a day.
Yeah.
And my brother, when he coached, he said there was a guy that he bench pressed every day, and he told him not to do that.
Yep.
He just wouldn't listen. So yeah, that's crazy. But man, Zach Duvall does not fuck around.
No.
He is the man. He's the man.
We talked about him, and he's been to several different schools. Northern Iowa, he went to Wyoming, and then he went to UCF. His brother runs Explosive Edge. I've heard a lot about him. Obviously, we've read a lot about him, and you've seen a lot about him on TV. Paul and I were talking earlier. We really wanted to discuss the rhabdomyolysis thing with the two kids, because that's a concern. Even with these new kids coming in, was it too much?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. They were talking about on the radio the other day. They said, are these guys coming in from JUCO going to be ahead of the game because they're used to working out harder than everybody was expected to under the previous coaches? Which, I don't know if that's true or not, but it was just such a relaxed atmosphere under Riley's staff that you kind of wonder if that could be, or if they were just not used to that new type of workout. Because I mentioned to Dan that rhabdomyolysis is something that CrossFit people get because they're overworked. They overwork their muscle, and they overwork their muscles, and it releases something like your kidneys up.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is it's basically just complete muscle breakdown.
Atrophy.
Yeah, and it starts with compartment syndrome, and it starts because of dehydration, overexertion, and basically what happened with those kids is they got a lighter case of it. It's happened before. It's happened in Iowa. It's happened at Oregon last year. Basically, it's a condition where the muscle rapidly breaks down, and so when muscle rapidly breaks down, it actually breaks down back into a protein. And so when that goes through your kidneys, it will block your kidneys. It will actually, make them shut down. So a good sign and symptom of it is you start locking up, your legs start cramping, your urine gets darker, almost to the consistency of like a Jack Daniels. When it gets that way, it smells bad. Like obviously your kidneys are being taxed to their max, and it's hard to recover from. What these kids had was a really light case of it, and I think the newspaper, because they want that big story about like all these kids are being abused down there.
That's bullshit.
It's BS. The kids, I think the two that, one was Tyjon Lindsay and the other one was a kid that's a walk-on lineman. I think they're honestly trying to impress their new coaches. They dialed the workouts back, and I think these kids really pushed themselves hard. I think the workout was too much for them because they weren't conditioned to how fast it moves, and I don't think they've been eating right. Paul and I talked about this the last time, how out of condition these kids were, and I'll be honest with you, like Nick Gates was fat. Like, he was just
Yeah.
sloppy fat.
And ended up not being very good.
No.
I don't know, he was injured a bunch, but...
4-star lineman out of Bishop Gorman.
Yeah, and his scenario was one that happened under Bo Pelini a lot, is they came in and played as freshmen, and by the time they were seniors, they didn't improve. They were the same.
They wiped them out. Like, it's almost like they burn out. Like, their first season, they were decent, and then all of a sudden, they just went downhill.
That happened with him. That happened with... I know Nick Gates was a Mike Riley guy, but under Pelini, I remember that happening to Cameron Meredith.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that happening to Jason Ankra.
Yep.
And I remember that happening to the guy that played defensive tackle.
Zach Sterup also.
Sterup also, yeah.
I mean, Sterup was a kid out of Hastings. Or not Hastings. Fremont. Yeah.
I think that's right.
I think so.
Up north.
Yeah, and he was a monster.
Yeah, he's 6'8", 320.
And they turned him into a sloppy mess, and he was good for like half a season, and then they put him at guard like right at the end, and he started getting good again, and I'm going, wow, that was a mess.
I don't get it. I can't remember the other guy I was thinking of under
Well,
Pelini.
that kid that transferred out to Florida.
Oh,
kid,
the offensive tackle.
Yeah.
That Fisher.
Not Fisher.
I can't remember what his damn name was. They actually mentioned that the other day, too, because he had like a false start penalty or something.
Yeah.
And Pelini bitched him out on the sideline, and they never repaired the relationship, and he's like, I'm out of here.
He left. I think he left that weekend.
Yeah, I think so, too.
His mom came and got him, if I remember correctly, which, if you play college football, don't have your mom come get you. That's not okay.
Right. And he was a 5-star tackle from Florida. Came up here, started as a true freshman. He was the first guy since, not a strip club guy.
Oh, Richie Incognito.
Richie Incognito. He was the first guy to...
That's the best way to remember him.
Yeah, he was the first guy to start as a freshman on opening day since Cognito, which is nuts. And then, plays 1 or 2 games and he's out.
Yeah.
So that sucked.
Well,
you never heard of him after he left, anyways.
And getting back to the recruiting, I mean, like, we've had good guys come in. Pelini had a bunch of good guys come in. They just never panned out.
Yeah.
You know, and they never even, some of them never even made it to campus.
Yeah, there was one guy,
crazy.
That huge class from Fort Scott that brought Levani David and Hardrick, Brandon Kinney, Stanley Jean-Baptiste. There was one of those guys that he brought up also, and he didn't make it to campus.
Well, that Mixon kid was one that never made it to campus. Suttles is the one that broke the bottle over Josh Banderas' head. I mean, like, we had, I think Josh Banderas, one of the linebackers, he broke it over his head and never ended up getting on being able to play. I mean, we had so many recruits, and a lot of them were JUCO guys that never made it. And I mean, but you see the potential, like, watching rivals and seeing those guys and now seeing these guys, the JUCOs that we got this year, the potential is there.
Yeah, we were talking about a few of them on the phone the other day, I believe.
Yeah.
I had to bring the newspaper because I can't remember all these guys' names.
Will Honus.
Yeah.
From the linebacker out of Fort Scott?
Yeah.
Or Butler.
He was from Butler Community College. He's gonna push to start.
Yeah. And he's probably going to push Dedrick Young right out of a job.
He might. Oh, again, there's another guy that hasn't got better. Well, in fact, he got worse.
Right, he got way worse.
He was good as a freshman, and he was amazing in high school.
And Trent Bray was supposed to be the answer for the linebackers, and it really never panned out. Like, we never saw development in the defensive backfield or in the linebackers, and I feel that's what hurt our defensive line.
Yeah.
You know?
Number of interceptions our corners had last year, 0.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
You
almost have to. It's like getting an F in a high school class. You almost have to try to get.
I think the only interceptions came from linebackers.
Yeah, I can't remember how many safeties had. I think Kalu.
Yeah, you're right. Kalu did have one, and I think Kieran Williams, I think, maybe had one.
Yeah, that could.
But defensive backs should be the majority of your interceptions,
especially corners.
Yeah,
as good as they are. I mean, the talent's there.
Well, Chris Jones is supposed to be the answer.
Yeah. And I love Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to do a lot better these next 2 years with these new coaches.
With the right coaches, yeah.
Yeah. And speaking about, the press conference again, another thing Scott Frost said that Dan and I loved was when he talked about, he was asked the question, it looked like you just recruited a lot of skill players. And he said, well, the reason for that is because we needed depth in those areas, and I liked the talent that we have on the offensive line. He said, when I played at Nebraska in the 90s, we had a certain build, look, and type of offensive lineman that we came back to Nebraska from Central Florida really not having. I know the talent's there, but he said we're going to have to get stronger, cut our body fat, and change our diet. And he said the talent's there. I know it's there. And they are good players there.
When Paul and I were in junior high and high school, like a lot of people don't understand. These kids now, they don't know Nebraska from the 90s. Like, the linemen were so big, and we're talking about guys that are 300 plus pounds with veins in their arms. Yeah. And we're not talking about chubby guys. We're talking about guys who they lift their shirt up and you can at least see the outline of their abs. And that, I mean, like, I'm not talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger looking guys, but I'm talking about guys that if they took their shirt off, nobody was making fun of man boobs or something like that. You know, like, we're talking big, stout dudes.
Yeah, it's like rugby players.
Yeah.
Those giant fuckers. I think it was the national championship game when they played Florida in '96. One of the announcers mentioned how he went to a Nebraska practice and they were talking about the offensive line because that line that year just demolished Florida. And they talked about how he was watching practice, and he's like, you get there and you look at the offensive linemen, they're 3 deep at every position, not fat, they're all athletic. And I was watching, if you pull up Lawrence Phillips highlights, you pretty much, half of that film, and it's like 30 minutes, you pretty much get the first half of it. It's a Zach Wiegert and Brennan Stye highlight reel, too.
It is. The pulling, like the coolest thing about Nebraska back in the 90s, the pulling. Like, the guards pulling. Because when the guards started pulling, you knew shit was going downhill, and you knew it was going downhill fast.
Yeah,
people were getting ran over.
Yeah, and Zach Wiegert's thing was he was known for taking out 2 people on the same play.
Yep.
Sometimes at the same time in a play. There was a game against Kansas, I think. They ran an option. He had 2 pancake blocks on the same play. And I think when he sprung Phillips for a run one time, I think him and Stye pulled, and then Phillips was coming around the outside, and then Wiegert turned around and he just knocked down 2 Iowa State guys at the same time. It was nuts, man. It's on YouTube. I mean, check it out. It's great.
Well, watching these guys and hearing the kind of offense that Frost wants to bring back and thinking about how that all operates, you think back to the 90s, and these guys are all coming back to help. You know what I mean? Like, they're coming back to volunteer their time to help these kids. If these kids don't take the opportunity now, I mean, we're talking about NFL quality linemen. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the meanest linemen you've ever seen came out of Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, Dominic Raiola, you know, we're talking about other guys, but Dominic Raiola.
He's from Hawaii.
They're worried about, you know, Sue being mean.
When Raiola was a freshman, he was on the punt team. And he used to go down and make the tackle sometimes. And he played center. Another guy that I loved, and my brother loved him too, he was from Hawaii also. I always
Tony Finoti?
Yeah, Finoti. Is his first name Tonio?
Yeah, Tony.
Tony? I never. 6'4", 340, and he could run.
Okay, so interesting story about Tony Finoti. So when we went down to watch Carl Schulting play down at the Fiesta Bowl, when he was playing for Nebraska, Tony Finoti, some guy was mouthing off about his mom, and Tony had him by the ankle, hanging him over the second floor balcony while we were down there, right? And I'm like, oh my God, that guy's enormous.
He was,
and
man.
He's like, hey, Tony, and he's like, hey, and he's got this guy by the ankle, and it was a defensive back. Yeah, I mean, we're talking a guy that's probably 5'11" to 6 foot and weighs 200 pounds, and he's got him upside down, hanging on by one hand to his ankle. Not that the coaches probably knew anything about that because, you know, but it was neat. It was neat to see. I mean, that was a huge man.
Yeah, he broke the school record for pancake blocks in a season. I think he did it his sophomore year or something.
I think somebody told me he had like a size 17 or 18 foot.
That's incredible.
That's insane.
Yeah, he was a giant dude. You just can't imagine somebody that's 6'4" and weighs 340 pounds can run and be that athletic, but he was. And so was Raiola.
So one of the funniest things, and not a lot of people might remember this guy, but there was a guy from Canada, Patrick Kabanga.
Yeah, I remember him.
And he
played defensive tackle?
Well, and he was supposed to play offense.
Okay.
Right? And they ended up pushing him over to defense. I worked with Jamal Lord for a little while over at Blue Moon. And Patrick was supposed to be the next greatest thing as far as lineman, right? Quick story. Patrick was from Canada. Patrick didn't like how South Park was being made fun of, Canada and all that stuff. So he broke a TV because they were watching South Park. That was the only time he really got riled up. That's why he didn't play much.
That's crazy, man. And I don't know anymore, but I know a few years ago, Jamal Lord and Jason Wiltz were coaching Concordia High School in Kansas football team.
Yeah.
One of them was the head coach, the other was the defensive or offensive coordinator.
And Jamal now is actually, well, the last time that I talked to him, he was working up in the oil fields in Williston, North Dakota.
Oh, wow.
He's an engineer, which that's
Nice.
cool as hell.
Yeah,
you know?
I didn't know that.
But getting back to the lineman thing, I'm looking for there's a couple guys on the line now that I'm looking forward to see the development. That Hymas kid.
Yeah, Brennan Hymas.
Yeah.
I think he's young enough that they'll turn him into a left tackle, I believe.
I think he's going to be an amazing left tackle, and he's big. He's big.
He's athletic as hell.
I really think the Farniak brothers have potential. I think there's a little softness there right now.
Yeah, I think they turn Matt Farniak into a great right tackle.
Yeah.
And then John Reardon, probably a great right guard.
And it's sad not to see him out there yet.
Yeah, same here. And then Bo Wilson.
Bo Wilson
I think
at
he's
that
got
fullback position when they ran him twice this year was hilarious.
Yeah, that kind of didn't work. But
No.
I think they're going to, with his attitude, you talk about a mean, nasty
Yeah.
attitude for an offensive lineman, I think they shape him into a center or a guard also. And then, just work with DJ Foster and
I think you see people. I'm like DJ Foster. I think doesn't have the meanness to him. I think he's a big body. I think he can really push some people. I just don't think he has the meanness. I see that in some of those other guys. I don't see it in him.
Okay.
And like I said, the Farniak brothers, they're a little soft. And I think you'll see Reardon and those guys come in. Reardon on his West Des Moines film, he was bad.
Yeah, I love that highlight reel.
Yeah.
There's one play on that highlight reel where he blocks a linebacker into the safety and ends up taking them both out.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
his high school highlight reel is awesome. And so is Bo Wilson's. And
Oh, yeah.
Matt Farniak's, he was just a man amongst boys in high school.
Well, it's
Manhandled.
strange because Gary's up from the same area as he is. And they were both just standout athletes where it's just like they're far and above better than everybody else, which it's hard to judge talent when you have stuff like that. Mm-hmm. When you have somebody who's so far and above and you wonder whether they're playing enough talent to make them better. That's why I think both Farniak brothers are going to be a little more of a developmental thing,
Yeah.
But Will Candy, the kid they picked up, that's a big kid.
Yeah.
6'6", I think he's 290.
Let's see that here.
His wingspan's over 7 foot.
6'6", 290. Very long. That's
Yeah.
a lot of length to work with there. They mentioned him on the radio as being a Greg Austin project. Greg Austin, by the way, Nebraska's offensive line coach. He played in the early 90s?
Yeah,
Okay.
tough guy. Played with I believe a couple ligaments in his foot. Messed up the whole season.
Wow. Yeah, who's the other lineman they got? They got
They got Farniak's younger brother.
Yeah, Will Farniak's
Yep.
right there. 6'3", 260. He'll definitely put on weight.
Probably play center or guard.
Are those the only two?
They're the only two.
Okay.
They had a couple other ones. What was it? Jarrett Bell that went down to Arizona State, which that's a Herm Edwards. That's a mess. That's just a disaster.
Nobody understands that hire.
No.
Nobody understands that hire.
I mean, out of all the coaches that you could hire, that's the guy. I mean, like, And if we're going to go with TV commentators, I would have went after Gruden. That's just, I mean...
Oh, definitely.
Rich
Well, better
Gruden
coach, too.
scored a big, big paycheck.
What did he get?
Oh, I want to say he's getting like $10 million a year, but he's coaching the Raiders, and he's got a ton of incentives.
10 years, $100 million.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's dumb because who's the last Raider coach that made it 3 years? I looked it
Cable
up.
made it too, and then he beat some lady. Not to make a joke out of it, but I mean, like, I don't think he was going to make it any longer than that.
When they made that hire, I think I actually looked back, and I think the last time Gruden coached him, he made it 3 or 4 years. And then you got to go all the way back to...
Callahan made it too.
Yeah, and then who was the...
Madden
was there a long time.
Long time.
That was back in the 70s.
That's back when you didn't have all the coaches to select from.
Right. Yeah, just... That was crazy. I couldn't believe that. But
we lost. I mean, and the kid was wavering the whole time. He was a commit, then he wasn't a commit. We talked a little bit about people being like Jameer Calvin. I'd rather have people just quit.
Right.
You know,
that was another thing they talked about on the radio was as hard as practices are going to be, and your weight workouts and your expectations. How many people might quit after spring ball that don't buy into it? Or are they all going to stay and say, this is going to work?
Well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, like, it worked at Central Florida with 2 and 3 stars.
And going from an 0-12 season.
Right.
2 years previous.
And, you know, really at 4-8, they don't look as bad as a 4-8 team on paper.
Yeah.
4-8 team doesn't look like what we have. That's coaching, and that's an attitude. You know, you don't. I mean, Iowa was 4-8 5 or 6 years ago, and then they came back and won the West like 2 years later. And I'm not an Iowa fan by any means, so don't anybody quote me on how I know that or why I know that. But I mean, like, Kurt Ferentz knows what he's doing, and the mentality, they switched out coaches, and all of a sudden they were right back where they wanted to be.
Yeah, Ferentz is a coach that he doesn't always get the best recruits, but he's got a system, and once in a while, everything just comes together, and they win the conference.
Well,
they win the division.
They've never really fallen to a point where his job has been like in question, like we're gonna fire this year. But he has fallen. I mean, like 4-8, that's detrimental to your career. And Riley, I don't think it was just the 4-8. I think it was the 5-7 the first year, and then we went 9-3, but it was a sketchy 9-3. It was like we barely beat the teams we were supposed to beat, and we used to just roll those teams.
Right.
I mean, I think we talked a little bit about barely beating Rutgers this year.
Yeah, I was at that game, and we were losing half the game.
Yeah, and I mean that's a team.
Man.
That's a team who, at best, shouldn't be closer than 20 points away from us.
Right.
Yeah,
it was bad, man. I mean, Riley's second season, some things came together, and you start 8-0, 9-0, I don't remember what it was, and then the wheels come off, and you start playing good teams and get blown away by them. And then this year, I think Damon Bennings said, you got to get the attitude out of your head when you get behind that it's all over. And because one of the other things I watched the other day was it was a documentary called No Doubt, and it was about the 97 Huskers. And when they played Missouri, they were trailing, and they had the ball with the last possession, and he said, we're all in the huddle like, we got this. We got this. And then they went down and scored and then beat their ass in overtime. But Damon Bennings said, when you base your whole season as a failure on losing the third game of the season, that's a pretty telltale sign. That was Northern Illinois.
And
another team we should have beat.
Northern Illinois had like one good year, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe, and they had a quarterback that was fairly good.
Yeah,
Jordan, yeah, and they're living off that. Like we have a roster full of 3 and 4 stars. And I'm not saying that's the top. You know, like obviously the top, we're talking Alabama, Georgia, things like that. But we're also not a Kansas. We're not an Iowa State. I mean, Matt Campbell made Iowa State look like they were 4 and 5 stars against Oklahoma.
Yeah, beat them in Norman.
You know, I mean, we have the talent here to win. We don't have the mentality. We didn't have the coaching, and we didn't have the development like Paul was talking in the weight room. You know, and it was sad to watch them gas against Rutgers, gas against Northern Illinois. You know, you go into the fourth quarter, and it used to be that the other team had their hands on their knees and on their heads, and we were just running them over. And like Paul said, our third and fourth string would go in and keep kicking their ass to where they were doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. If you look up the statistics from the 95-96 team, it was consistent all 4 quarters. Second and third quarter were your highest scoring quarters, but the first and fourth quarter, they weren't too far off, and they averaged 399.7 rushing yards a game. Was it like 52 points, 56 points, something like that? They scored 62 in the first half against Iowa State that year.
Yeah.
There's a play they show on that, I don't remember. I watched 2 of them. I watched one on the 95 team and then one on the 97 team, and they talked about how there was a play where, I don't remember, I think it was Damon Benning. Yeah, Damon Benning had the ball and he was running up the sideline, and Chris Dishman was ahead of him, blocking.
The whole way down.
Chris Dishman weighed 330.
Yeah, he was 330, and he was just he looked like a block. I mean, he
looked like a Greek god.
Yeah.
All those guys used to.
I mean, but I mean, like it looked like a wall going down the field. I mean, like he was in great shape, but
yeah.
I mean, you weren't getting around him. Period.
Those linemen were really, really good. Steve Ott, Aaron Taylor, Chris Dishman.
Well, these are all guys. I mean, like
Eric Anderson.
Yeah, these are all guys that people in the NFL were killing to get.
Yeah,
you know, and a lot of these guys went to the NFL. Some of them didn't make it. You know, like some of them, and a lot of them moved back here, and a lot of them were successful business people too. They weren't dummies.
Yeah,
you know, that's what cracks me up too. Now we don't see a lot of these guys coming back to Omaha and back to Lincoln. You know, there's not that culture like, hey, I want to stay in Nebraska.
Yeah, and I think one more thing about Chris Dishman was when they played Florida for the national championship, he was a sophomore, and he started at left tackle, I believe.
Yeah.
And the announcers had mentioned how he started the season off preseason first team all Big 12 or Big 8, and he hadn't started a game at Nebraska.
No.
But he ended up being All-American.
Well, I mean, just watching him play that year, I mean, Spurrier talks about just getting run over.
Yeah,
they couldn't answer anything we did.
Yeah, he had the most honest post-game press conference I've ever heard. They said, "What happened, Coach?" And he goes, "Don't have any answers. They're just too good for us."
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. Tommy Frazier ran for 200 yards. Lawrence Phillips ran for 200 yards.
Yeah.
Amon Green ran for 100 yards.
Well, and the best part about it, halftime, the girl goes, "Yeah, he's gonna go in and write up a play. They're gonna fix everything." No, he did. He was not gonna go in and
writing up a play.
You know, like they were getting their ass kicked, and nobody had any answers, and it was just, as a Nebraska fan, like you get. Like you should, like when you walk into the stadium, like just watching it on TV that night, we got chills watching those guys.
I skipped a high school basketball game that night to go home and watch that game.
Right.
And I was on the team.
Right. I
just told Coach straight up, I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be here tonight.
I'm going to watch.
He's like, what's going on? I said, well, Nebraska's playing for the national championship.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be icy or snowing or something. I didn't want to drive on that shit either, but that's the excuse I gave him.
Good enough excuse.
Yeah. I used to work with a guy at the golf course in Pittsburgh, Kansas in college, and he was an older guy, he's retired, and his retirement job was he just mowed rough and fairways for us. And he found out I was a Nebraska fan, and he's like, I went bird hunting up there in November one year, a long time ago, and we go out in the morning, start hunting, and about 11 o'clock, everybody starts heading back to the trucks, and he's like, where are we going? He's like, well, hell, Nebraska plays this afternoon. We're going to the bar. He's like, all right. So, yeah.
I can remember as a kid, you know, like, even if they weren't on TV, like, you were glued to the radio.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to, when I lived in Kansas, I remember going out to my car and finding the game on the radio.
Right.
And listening to it in the car. I'd listen to the whole damn game. Yeah, and
I feel like
any way you could get a hold of it.
I feel like that excitement is back. Like listening to Scott Frost, like I get that whole Tom Osborne feeling again, which is nuts
Definitely.
to me.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. I think he's here for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You know, and it's scary because we have so many hopes and dreams that it's going to be the old Nebraska, and I don't think it's going to be the old Nebraska. I think it's going to be Scott Frost, Nebraska.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Cam Jones made the statement. The guy asked him, "Why did you pick Nebraska?" And he's like, "Nebraska hasn't done anything, you know, since I think the last time they played a really major game was 2001 when they played Miami." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to be part of the ESPN 30 for 30 on Scott Frost."
Yeah.
Which, coming from a high school kid, I mean, like, hearing something like that,
that's pretty awesome.
That's really awesome, and it's special. I mean, like, Scott Frost is doing something that no other coach has ever done. I mean, like, nobody's worn two hats like he did this last 2 months. Nobody's taken a team from 94th in the recruiting rankings down to 21st in 2 months.
Yeah, that's one thing he mentioned in the press conference. He's like, I don't really care about rankings, but today's the only day they matter. And he said, I think when I got here, the class was ranked 94th in the nation, and we finished at 21, 20, 19, depending on who you look at.
Service, yeah.
But yeah, he ended up getting 9 4-star guys.
And they're ballers.
And they also are the people that he wanted. He said this in that first press conference, and he said it again. He's like, I picked these guys because I wanted them for my system, not just to fill a class full of scholarship guys.
I think probably one of the most unique ones that he got, like, and we all look at the numbers, like, you know, how tall they are and how much they weigh and what position they play. But the one athlete that he got, that Miles Jones, I think he's like 5'9",
170.
5'9", 170.
He's a 4-star guy, too.
He's a 4-star guy, but he's small. And he's like that running back they had up at Eugene in Oregon, and just like the guy they just had down there.
He plays for the Chiefs.
Yep.
Yeah, those small little dudes, man, you get them in space and get some linemen out in front of them. If they know how to follow their blockers, they got a good thing going. Yeah, let's see. Cam Taylor
should be pretty impressive too.
Yeah, and he's from Alabama.
Yeah, we scored a lot in SEC country, and some of these kids were very overlooked right until the end. The running back that we got, Maurice Washington, played at the Under Armour game,
and he was the MVP.
Yeah,
he had 3 touchdowns.
He lit people up. He went from a 3-star to a 4-star like overnight.
Yeah, he was a 3-star Rivals rating, 4-star ESPN, 4-star 24/7 Sports. Yeah. And the other thing they said about him was he's like the spokesman now for that area down in Dallas where he played, and he'll get more guys that good to come up here. Kind of like the Tristan Gebbia trio that came up, which is now just a duo.
Which may be a single.
Maybe a single. You never know what the hell's going to happen, how many quarterbacks are going to leave. One quarterback we had last year that started every game, wasn't even very good, said he's declaring for the NFL. And he could have been a graduate transfer and immediately played at another college and probably got a better.
I think this is his way out of football, though. If you take a look at it, like, so let's say he doesn't get drafted, right? And he goes to free agency and he doesn't pan out. Then he has some kind of an excuse, you know, like, hey, it just didn't work out.
Yeah. He wouldn't start next year.
No. And, you know, like Nick Gates going to the NFL, I mean, we're all not worried about him playing.
Yeah.
You know, that's not happening.
Yeah, I'm definitely not worried about, nothing against Nick Gates, but I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah.
That frees up a scholarship. If he gets drafted, good for him. He might be a good project for an NFL offensive line coach. And same with Tanner Lee. Best of luck to him. he just wasn't going to play next year. He's a damn statue in the pocket.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. And you throw that many interceptions, and then a quarterback comes in as your head coach, former quarterback. It's like, dude, you ain't starting, man.
Well,
I couldn't believe he started every game this last year.
Well, I mean, especially a guy like Scott Frost. I mean, like, probably one of the toughest quarterbacks we've ever had.
He still holds the bench press record for his position at Nebraska. I think it's over 400
Yeah,
pounds.
it's over 400 pounds. It's wild. And he squatted a ton, too. I
He
mean,
was a state champion in the shot put his senior year.
His mom was one of his head coaches in football.
Yeah, she
if that tells
coached,
you
she
anything.
coached the wide receivers and the defensive ends, and she was an Olympic athlete.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about coaching trees. How about genetics?
Plays a big part.
Yeah. I mean, like, the one thing that I know is we've got a guy that not only is intelligent football-wise, but Paul and I were talking intelligence. He went to Stanford.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about those, not Yale and Harvard, but, like, the next level right below that is Northwestern, Notre Dame, Stanford.
Yep.
It's not Ivy League stuff, but
No.
you're not going to be an idiot and just get into those schools.
Well, and if your grades don't stay up, you go away real quick.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's...
It's not hard to be academically ineligible at a place like that if you
Right.
let something slip. Oh, and I thought of this also when I was thinking about this the other day. We grew up watching Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
You remember the episode where they were all getting their SAT scores and they were talking about the colleges they were going to go to?
Yeah.
And like Jessie wanted to go to Stanford, which made sense. She was smart. But then Zach Morris was trying to go to Yale or some shit.
Yes.
It's like he would have never even been looked at by them. He was such a fuck off. He was a class clown, man.
Well, and you think about the people that... so we had a quarterback years ago, Nebraska did, that transferred to Yale.
Really? I forgot about that.
What was his name?
Who was the coach?
Oh, it was Frank Solich, I believe. Is when Harrison Beck. Was it Yale or Harvard? One of those two, and he transferred there and actually ended up playing. Harrison Beck was his name.
I thought he was recruited by Bill Callahan, though.
He might have been.
Joe Taylor and Joe Daly were both recruited by Solich, I think. And Joe Gans was all Joes. Joe Gans was also recruited by Solich, and then
ended up being a fantastic player that sat the bench behind Sam Keller.
He sat on the bench for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam. I'm so glad Sam Keller broke his arm because that led the way. And Joe Gans, man, he ended up. What did he start the last 4 or 5 games of the year?
And threw 500 yards the second game, 510, something like that.
Yeah, he had over 17 or 1,800 yards passing in just a couple games.
Yeah.
And he was fast on his feet. And he was really smart. And then that next year, when Pelini was the first-year coach, he was the starter. And he had a phenomenal year.
And now he coaches for Pelini. Sad.
Does he really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But good for him, though. That's
he's
awesome.
got a coaching job, you know. Like that's good, but it's like,
Yeah, that's pretty cool, though. Is it Major Applewhite a coach somewhere?
Yes.
Which I thought he got a raw deal at Texas when they kept trying to start Chris Sims over him just because Phil was his dad. And he would get behind every game, and then they'd put Major Applewhite back in, and then they'd bring him back and win. I'm like, why are you not starting Major Applewhite?
Well, Major Applewhite, if you remember, he was kind of a pretty kid. Like he was one of those guys, don't hit me in the face. But he was a really good quarterback. Like
really good quarterback.
You know, like it's hard not to want him to start because he was gonna win.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I never understood why they kept starting Chris Sims over him. But Tanner Lee started every damn game last year, and nobody else got
Over a lot of talent, too. I mean, I hate to say it, Jebbia was amazing, and he possibly won't even play now, but I mean, like, much better quarterback.
Yeah.
And then O'Brien.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Patrick O'Brien stays, because he'll be a sophomore, and if he decides to transfer, he'll still have 2 years to play. You just have to sit out a year.
Well, the crazy thing is, so they bring in that Adrian Martinez kid, which he's 4-star standout.
Yep.
And
he didn't
you have
even play
Noah
his senior year.
Well, and you have Noah Vedral, who ends up
transferring from Central Florida. Yeah.
Who, when they said he came in as a freshman, as a true freshman, in redshirted, he was amazing for them. You know, like he could have played at any point. So now it puts us in an interesting predicament because, you know, they tried to get a second quarterback because I do think, and you thought too, that we're going to have some transfers.
Yeah.
Especially the quarterback position. I mean, that room could get real thin real quick.
Yeah. We already lost one.
Yeah.
And then you might lose one or two more.
Yeah.
So then you'd be down to 3 because Bunch is staying.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll stay. Wouldn't he a walk-on anyways from
Yeah.
Nebraska? He won't leave. And you got Martinez, and then you got...
And just to be specific, this is not Taylor Martinez's brother. Just so
No, it's
everybody
not.
understands.
This is Adrian Martinez.
Yeah.
He's from Clovis West High School in Fresno, California.
Yeah. No relation to Taylor.
Taylor, good quarterback, by the way, but couldn't pass an NFL physical. He could have been a good kick returner in the NFL.
He could have.
I was pretty sad that he didn't. He couldn't even pass a physical. That sucks. But he
That's
did have a
really
lot
bad.
of injuries because he was a 4-year starter.
And he got hit a lot.
He did get hit a lot because. Yeah, let's see who else. Oh, you mentioned Maurice Washington. We talked about him for a little bit. 6'1", 190-pound running back, super fast, just runs people over.
Yeah.
MVP of the Under Armour game. Very good get. A last-minute signing, if I remember right, too.
The one thing they were kind of worried about too, and he ended up qualifying, was his grades. You know, that's kind of scary
to work on there.
Yeah.
But I was going to mention Greg Bell, the other running back in the class. 6 foot, 200 pounds. He was the #1 rated running back of the JUCO players
And
at
they
Arizona
wouldn't knock
Western.
him. They wouldn't knock him up to 4 stars.
Right.
All these JUCO players, if you notice, star for star, they only knock them up to 3 stars on most of them. You have to be like a Randy Moss type player to be in the 4-star category in the JUCOs, and he's legitimately a 4-star running back.
Yeah, I think he'll be the feature back next year.
Well, and I think we flipped the running back. I mean, I hate to say this, but like, you look at the position players they got, and our running backs and our receivers that are there currently are all in trouble.
Yeah, every one of them. And I can speak about the running backs because if Trey Bryant's knee really doesn't get better, he might have to switch positions or go Division II. I don't know. Because I think Greg Bell's going to be the starting running back next year. And then you're going to see Washington play.
Yeah.
Maybe Divino Zigbo, who they said looked like he lost 30 pounds. Maybe he's your third down back or your short yardage back.
I want to know what kind of beef they had with him. You know, like, you think about it, every time they put him in, he did something special.
He did. He almost single-handedly brought us back in the Rutgers game.
Yep.
They couldn't tackle him. He kept getting first downs, and he did that in more than one game.
Well, and there were certain players on that team that you saw do special things by themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't a team effort. You know, like,
Right.
and we saw that again and again and again. And the receiver, Spielman, what a special talent. But, like, that's one guy. Like, we're really hurting.
And a guy who I don't think's in trouble.
No,
I think
no.
Scott Frost loves his upside, and he'll be here for 3 more years.
Well, I mean, you think about it. Like, he lays out perfectly into his offense.
Yeah.
Speed,
talent,
can
lateral
catch the
speed.
ball.
Just I could see him running a wheel route and just outrunning everybody down the sideline. Yeah, him, and I think was it Alonzo Moore, or is it the
Alonzo Moore's gone.
Yeah,
The
who am I thinking of?
Tyjon Lindsey's back.
Which I think
you've
he'll be
also
good.
got
Stanley Morgan Jr. is who I'm thinking of. Good senior leader at receiver. Hopefully makes
you
the
just
transition.
hope his mind's in it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, he didn't. He said, "I got to think about my future," which meant I'm thinking about going to the NFL.
well, and he dropped so many balls this year.
Yeah.
You got to wonder. I mean, like, is that him not communicating? Because there were several times where he was yelling at Tanner Lee.
Right.
And I wonder how much good communication was between them. So, and that's the mentality of the team. So I think with these new kids coming in here, I think you either see a really big turnaround with him or you see him leave.
Yeah, definitely. Something to look at. Then you got Jerron Woodyard. He's JUCO
Yes.
wide receiver.
Yeah.
He
Speedster.
he immediately is the fastest guy on the team.
4.21, I think,
It's
was his 40.
unbelievable 40 speed. Mike Williams, East Mississippi Community College wide receiver.
Out of Scuba.
Yeah, Scott Frost really liked him. These are two guys that signed in December in the early signing period. And who else do we have up here? Cameron Juergens, tight end from Beatrice High School in Nebraska.
Okay.
He's the #1 recruit in the state.
Anybody saw his film? That kid is standalone the best player in the state. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, he defense and offense.
I can't wait to see him and David Engelhoff on the field.
Well, what about the other two? We have
He recruited 2 tight ends that
Austin
are like
Allen that are
players.
6'9",
6'8" and 6'9".
and that Kirk Randolph
Randolph.
is 6'7" or 6'8".
Yeah,
I mean, we have tight ends that could actually be
basketball
fast
players.
enough to play an outside receiver too. That McGriff kid they picked up too is like 6'6",
Yeah.
and he's in an early signing, I believe.
Oh, here he is. Oscar McGriff, 6'6", 220.
Yeah,
Yeah. Who's the other guy I was thinking of?
and I mean that on
Dominic Watt. Dominic Watt's a 4-star receiver too.
Yep.
So I mean, those are just the receivers.
You went from having an empty receiving. I mean, like, you had Stanley Morgan Jr., Spielman, and Tyjon Lindsey, and Lindsey wasn't getting on the field that much, to having a full complementary, like, just, I mean, the quarterback, whoever the quarterback is, I don't care. You throw the ball up, and they're going to catch it. It's going to happen.
One we forgot, Andre Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
California.
Receiver, yeah.
Another 3-star speedster. He had 70 catches for 1,100 yards and 18 touchdowns.
Yeah. And he was a last minute guy who didn't tell him till that day, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, and that Caleb Tanner and one of the other guys, it was Will Canty, were all the day of.
Right. Okay. And then
Defensive backfield, though, we picked up some people too.
you got a lot of people that are playing corner and safety. And then who's the wide receiver that hurt his knee? He would have been a freshman this year too with Tyjon Lindsey. Hopefully just as good, because he was a super stud in high school also.
Yeah, he was out of Missouri.
Can't remember his damn name.
Yeah, well, he never got to play.
Yeah, he got hurt before the season started.
It's sad because we should know that.
Yeah. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
I just can't remember. Okay, let's look at the other things. This was an interesting thing. This is a by the numbers. I love these kind of things. Number one was the consensus ranking of Nebraska's recruiting class among Big Ten West teams. You're recruiting against Lovie Smith, Pat Fitzgerald. You're recruiting against
Paul Chris.
Yeah, Paul Christ at Wisconsin. You're recruiting against Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, and you're recruiting against PJ Fleck, who is gonna turn Minnesota around, man. And then Jeff Brom, he's gonna turn Purdue around. You're recruiting against those guys, and you beat them all. And Nebraska had the 3rd-ranked class in the whole conference, only behind Ohio State and Penn State.
So speaking of being number one, the one thing that all these kids said is he was honest with them.
Yeah.
He told them you were either going to play or you had potential to play. It wasn't, hey, man, you're going to come here and you're going to push this guy out of the way. He told them, he's like, this is what you're going to do, and this is where we want you.
Yeah. And I think out recruiting Jim Harbaugh is pretty impressive.
Amazing.
Because he had some of the best recruiting classes the last couple of years in the whole nation.
We're talking about a guy who brought in the top recruiting classes and had people like Ric Flair coming to his signing parties, and had Lil Wayne, you know, and Scott Frost didn't have anybody.
Right.
Scott Frost showed up and said, "Here's my class, let's go."
Yeah.
You know, pretty awesome.
So that's nice. The number 5 is the number of defensive backs in this year's class, the most of any position. The number 8 is the number of recruits from Florida, the most from any state. California, we only got 3 guys out of California. You think part of that's because he was coaching in Florida?
I think he built I think all of his coaches built quite a relationship with Florida, and I really think there is a talent difference between Florida and California if we really look at it.
Yeah.
All the players that we've really gotten from Florida have panned out. A lot of the California guys have not panned out.
Yeah. Tommy Frazier versus Marlon Lucky.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example.
5 stars.
The other thing was he did mention that in his press conference that all of his assistants have made really good relationships in Florida. So I
with
think
some of the best schools too.
yeah, some of the absolutely top schools.
One thing that I would like to see, though, I know they talked about IMG Academy, and I don't know how many people know that it started out as a tennis school. They're one of the top in the nation, and that's in Florida. And they built somewhat of a relationship with them. I think Mike Riley had a little bit of a relationship with them too, but that's one where we need to go find people.
Yeah.
We've had linemen from here actually go down that Brock, what's his name? He's a lineman they picked up last year. Bando. Brock Bando.
Brock Bando, yeah.
And he played down there, and he didn't even start, and he was a 4-star.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's the kind of talent you tap into when you tap into Florida.
Florida's had that kind of speed and athleticism forever, because remember Howard Schnellenberger took over Miami, and
yeah.
all he did was recruit Miami.
Yeah,
Just
the
that
metro area.
Yeah, just the metro area of Miami, and a couple of years later he beats Tom Osborne's second best team ever.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Amazing.
That is amazing. Speaking of Florida again, 13, the number of recruits from Florida before 2000. 36, the number of Florida recruits after 2000. 18, number of walk-ons confirmed, twice as many as last season. He's bringing in 45 guys this year between the recruits and the walk-ons.
So, we're talking about, if he does this 2 years in a row, we're talking a total roster flip.
Yeah, definitely a total roster flip. And he said he's going to try to get the roster back up to 150 or more players.
And when you think about that, like, you're flipping a whole roster. Like, basically, he did that at UCF, and we saw the results.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Tom Herman's doing the same thing at Texas.
Oh, it's
You see the
amazing.
class he got? He got the number 1, 2, and
Yes.
3 safeties in the nation.
yeah.
And,
And their defense was terrible last year.
Yeah, the number 1 defensive end, and
Yeah.
the number 1 or 2 defensive tackle, and
Yeah.
I think the number 1 linebacker.
Yeah.
He mopped up on defense, man.
Well, and he has such a special offense. That's why Houston was so good.
Ed Oliver.
Yeah.
Freshman, true freshman,
Yeah.
first team All-American.
Well,
Sideline
I mean-
to sideline like a middle linebacker.
And you know that's I don't think Nebraska's ever going to have that big power kind of recruiting class. But I think even with our 3 and 4 stars, I think we're going to be in the top 20 the next couple of years.
I'd hope so. I definitely hope so. And after a few years of success and players going to the NFL and successful offense, you're going to start getting 5-star guys.
Right. Well, and you're going to start having people fight to want to play here.
Yeah.
You know, like back in the day, we used to steal guys from Oklahoma and never play them because we didn't want them playing for Oklahoma. And now we're at that point where you see Scott Frost coming in and he's recruiting the guys that he wants, and we're going to get walk-ons that could have potentially gone somewhere else, played, and actually beat us under like Mike Riley or like a Pelini.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we lost a bunch of guys from Iowa Western to places like Wisconsin and Iowa.
That
got
one kid,
tore up.
that one kid from Omaha went to Clemson.
Yeah.
I think he was an athlete.
Well, I mean, starting with Pelini, we had a kid from Omaha North and up down in Miami. How does that happen?
I don't know. Here it is right here, actually. 130, approximate number of players on the Huskers in 2017. 150, the number Frost wants to see this year. And they also sold out the spring game in 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so here's my bitch. Okay, I got on at 10 o'clock. They said tickets go on sale at 10 o'clock, and for non-season ticket holders. So I was at work. I'll admit that. My 10 o'clock appointment canceled, so I went and grabbed my wallet.
Yeah.
I hurried. I sat down at the computer. It's automatic refreshing. It's doing its job. I tried to log on. No tickets available. Now, at 10 o'clock, that thing was so backed up, I spent all the way till 11, which I shouldn't have, looking for tickets and couldn't get them. Then I go on Ticket Express and find out that I can get tickets from anywhere from $69 to $215 for a $10 ticket.
Good God.
So anybody, and I'm going to tell you, you're really messed up if you're going to a spring practice, and I'm saying practice, for $215.
Yeah. I've never even bought a real ticket for half that.
Now, I will say this. I have spent some money on some real tickets.
Noel spent some really good money on the Oregon game 2
Yep,
years ago.
yeah.
And we got front row.
Yeah.
It was 15th row, but we
Yeah.
were in the front row, and there was nobody beside me because we were at the very edge, right over the tunnel where Oregon comes out.
That's awesome.
That was the best game I was ever at. It was really the best seats that you could ever dream of.
Now, I will say this, and I'm going to give all the props in the world to Ticket Express. We've always really shopped through Ticket Express when we can't get tickets from anywhere else. They are legit. And I know I'm giving a promo here for Ticket Express, but the one game that we got to go to, we watched Nebraska beat Wisconsin a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only time we beat them in like forever.
Yeah.
They screwed up our tickets. We had tickets like, I think 40 or 50 rows up on the 15, and it was me and my dad. We're going down there, and they ended up screwing up and giving our tickets to somebody else. And they gave us on the 22nd row, which when we sat down, we were on the 50, right on the aisle, the 22nd row, and right across from us are Rex Burkhead's parents because he was number 22, and they're on the 22nd row.
Nice.
And I was like,
pretty
oh, this is amazing. Like, this is the closest I will ever sit. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that 15th row is, you're so close.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I've sat in that row. I've sat 44 rows up on the press box sideline. That was nice. That was a Rutgers game.
Yeah.
That was very nice. You're under the overhang, so you're not even in the sun.
No.
And
That is
then,
nice.
A few games in the zone, and the first game that I ever went to was Ndamukong Suh's senior year when we beat Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And that was like 89 rows up. I mean, you're up there then.
I've been on the 93rd row on the north end zone. That's a lot of fun.
That's
You're right up next to the boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in the summer and in the winter, it is cold and really warm in the summer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. That end zone, you're in the sun the whole day.
Oh, yeah, the whole time.
No,
it's not even fun.
2 years ago against Northwestern, that's where we sat.
Oh.
And I put sunblock on like 4 times. It was no
And
clouds.
as you can see, both of us are fairly white.
I burn very easy.
Yeah.
Another interesting one on here is the number 11 billion. And I mentioned this to Dan before we started. 11 billion with a B.
Not million.
Frequent flyer miles logged by Frost and his staff since December 2nd. And then it says, this may be an exaggeration. Okay. Even if it's not, what, 10 billion, 9 billion?
Still,
That's crazy.
anything, even a million, just to put it in perspective, you know, I mean, it's roughly, what, 2,500 miles from coast to coast.
Something like that.
You know, so I mean, if you think about this, and not all these planes, they're not sitting on regular commercial jets either. But I was telling Paul earlier, they tagged his plane. So basically, if you take the tail number and you throw it in this thing, it'll show you where all he's going. It was amazing to watch him over a day where the hell he was.
Yeah, all over the place.
I mean, hell, he was in Alabama, then he was in Maryland, then he was in Florida, and then he was back here, all in one day.
Yeah, that's really awesome to think that you're going that many places that often while still preparing your other team for a bowl game.
And raising a brand new family.
Right, his baby was born this year.
Yeah.
We mentioned Cameron Jones, and we mentioned Caleb Tanner,
Yeah.
and I can't remember earlier, we've been on here over an hour already. I can't remember if I mentioned that Frost went to Georgia and flipped him. I think we mentioned that.
And we talked about that, yeah.
We've talked about Willie Canty. Braxton Clark's another defensive back. That's
Breon, what's his name? The kid that got the transfer from Ole Miss. That's one that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Um,
Where's he at here? I guess he wouldn't be in here.
No, he's not in there.
Maybe on
He's
the
a transfer, and he's the style of linebacker similar to that Shaquem Griffin too.
Mm-hmm.
He, besides the recruiting class, we got him, and we had Vedral transfer in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's bringing quality players all around.
Yeah, he played that one. Breon, he played at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Freeze got fired, so he got to transfer with no conditions or anything. He can play right away. Here's an interesting one. Casey Rogers.
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize he's actually a lacrosse player.
Yeah, they were talking about that on the radio. He played lacrosse up in Syracuse.
and his dad, I believe, is his lacrosse coach. Like he's like a all-world lacrosse player, and decided to play football instead.
He's supposed to be one of the best in the whole nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, him. We're talking about Miles Jones.
Yep. C.J. Smith was one.
Yeah,
In December, he had a chance to sign in December, and we were all like kind of worried about it because he didn't sign in December, and said that he was still committed and everything like that. And he was one of those guys where it was kind of, we need him. Like he's one of those guys where he's going to fill an instant position at cornerback, and I was worried. I'll be honest.
Yeah, C.J. Smith. Recruited by Alabama, Florida, Oklahoma, Michigan, LSU, Penn State, Wisconsin, Tennessee, West Virginia, Central Florida, Virginia Tech. That's just the first 3 lines.
Yeah.
There's twice as many on here. Mississippi State, Louisville.
And it comes down to Scott Frost's honesty. That's like, this kid likes him because he was honest with him.
Yeah, he's definitely the difference. David Alston.
Real funny deal out of Minnesota. So one of the guys that works with us is a Minnesota fan, and he grew up in Minnesota, and he's like, how the hell did you pull a defensive end out of Minnesota?
Right.
And the kid has all the upside in the world. He's just a little undersized. You know, he's 6'5" and he's 225 at defensive end, and he's playing, they said he's probably going to play an outside linebacker, but honestly, like, he puts on about 20-30 pounds. He's right there at defensive end.
Yeah. You see how many defensive ends Alabama recruited?
Oh,
4?
a pro team.
Yeah.
Like 4 guys.
They recruited 4 defensive ends. They're all 6'5", 280, 235, 235, 225.
Yeah.
That's
Just
one
monsters.
class.
Just monsters.
That's that's pretty unbelievable. Tate Wildman from Colorado.
Yeah.
Defensive lineman.
Well, they're saying defensive end for him.
Okay. 6'6", 250.
He's a big kid, and I think he was like one of the best recruits out of Colorado this year.
We've got a lot of good guys out of Colorado
We
the last
have.
few years.
Well, you know, Colorado's resorted to smoking weed and just hanging out and being mid-level.
A lot of snowboarders.
Yeah.
We've mentioned Barrett Pickering. He's the #1 kicker in the nation.
And what a need.
Yeah, definitely, with Drew Brown leaving.
Yeah.
And he's from Alabama, and he didn't go there.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, just like that guy from Alabama that went to Georgia.
Yeah. That Legrone kid, where's he at? Legrone.
From Atlanta.
Yeah. He's a tight end, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think is he
list
the guy Frost talked about starting outside and working his way in to tight end or something? And Austin McGriff,
He's
Tampa,
another. Yeah.
6'6", 220. I think the guy that's going to play receiver.
He's going to play receiver too, and I think he'll probably move in. But our tight ends, we're so deep in it right now. You wonder how they're going to fit into the offense. You know, obviously, because they're going to have a lot of those guys blocking. You know, as far as what he's going to run.
Yeah.
Let's see, what's his name? Deontay Williams. He's an instant fit. He's a community college guy. It's going to be a cornerback too.
Yep. 6'1", 200, good size from the corner.
Yeah. And our cornerbacks are getting bigger. That's one thing that's really positive, is getting the 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" guys at cornerback.
Lamar Jackson, 6'3", 210.
And we need him to show up this year.
Definitely. I think he will. He's got the talent. He just will have the motivation now to go along with it. Yeah. I can't remember all the guys on the roster right now, but Eric Lee, and then Williams. They're both from Colorado.
Right.
Then there's the other
Aaron
guy,
Williams.
Aaron Williams. And then who's the other guy that played corner? He started against Ohio State. They put him at safety or something, though.
Yeah.
What the hell's his name? He's super fast.
Yeah.
And he's like 6'2", 210 or something.
Boodle.
DiCaprio Boodle, yeah. I think he'll be good.
And Markel Dismuke really hasn't got much playing time. He was another one out of Calabasas that hasn't got a lot of playing time.
Yeah, hopefully everything will get turned around
But if
there.
we look at our cornerbacks, though, the development went downhill last year. Huge.
Yeah.
Dante Williams didn't do us any favors. And I really feel like having new coaches in there, I think we may see a big improvement. We may see some guys that we've never seen on the field that are on our roster hit the field.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so. What's in that newspaper? This was Thursdays, and I believe that's Fridays. I can't remember what was in this one. And there was one reason I brought that one in. There was an article in there somewhere. I don't remember which one it was. And while we're looking, Nebraska basketball, what are they sitting in 5th place in the conference? Something
Possibly
like that?
the best Nebraska team we've ever had.
Right. They talk about flipping a team.
Yeah.
That's a completely different roster. Yeah, Penn State had a good recruiting class too.
Well, James Franklin, he was from Vanderbilt. He had a special class at Vanderbilt before he left. They were really making improvements.
Minnesota recruited a 6'8", 400-pound defensive tackle.
Yeah.
He's from IMG Academy.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's that IMG Academy, former tennis school.
He is one of 2 4-star offensive linemen. Oh, he's an offensive lineman. One of 2 4-star offensive linemen from IMG Academy who signed with the Gophers. The other's 365 pounds.
Yeah.
That's some beef. This article, by the way, is Big Ten's incoming recruiting classes have potential for large impact. So this is the best recruits for all the teams, and Will Honus is on here.
Yeah.
And
Adrian
Maurice
Martinez.
Washington is on here, and there's Adrian Martinez. Is there any more?
Not for us, I don't believe. But I really think. I mean, like out of all the classes, seeing this one being so good,
Yeah.
and seeing
This
the
is just
potential.
the beginning.
Well, and imagine having a full year. I mean, we're talking about 2 months. We're not even talking about
It's not even 2 full months.
right. Well, and then when you're saying not 2 full months, they were prepping another team. Like you
For a
said,
bowl
Scott
game,
Frost
yeah.
was having a family. You know, there's a lot going into that. And Frost gave a lot of the credit to all of his coaches. Like Ryan Held, in my opinion, is probably the best recruiter we have on that team at running backs coach. And he was a former receiver, walk-on receiver for Nebraska.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
wild.
right.
Barrett Rude did a lot of legwork.
Yeah.
You know,
Linebackers coach.
and we really, I mean, if we break this all down and we want to see where this all came from, Matt Davidson brought all these guys here.
Yeah.
You know, like we're lucky that we have people that really care about the program, because it was going in the shitter.
Yeah, it was definitely disappointing how bad it got this year. I mean, the first year, yeah, okay. We were close in a lot of games, but we lost a bunch. And then last year, we had such a great start that it's like, hey, this is finally working. And then all the good teams we played at the end of the year killed us. Got
Yep.
blown out in a bowl game.
Yep.
And then this year, just the way it started, barely beaten Arkansas State. Came back against Oregon and should have won that game anyways. Losing to Northern Illinois. Barely beating Rutgers. And that's just the beginning of the season.
Well, and
And how bad we got blown out at the end of the season in all those games, and some of those teams weren't even that good.
well, and being a Husker fan for my whole life and wanting to turn the game off, like being physically sick to my stomach watching Nebraska football was painful. You know, like there were losses that we had. I watched Nebraska lose 55-10 to Miami in the Orange Bowl, and I didn't feel that bad. I knew Miami was that good.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't that good. That was years ago. But watching these guys lose to Northern Illinois, and I hate to say this, I don't like taking shit from Iowa fans, and they had plenty to throw at us this year.
Yeah.
You know, I mean it was disappointing.
Yeah, you get down to the end of that season, and you're halfway competitive for the first 3 quarters or 2 quarters
Yeah.
against Wisconsin, and then get blown out. Ohio State completely destroys us, and then Penn State just beats the hell out of us, and then
Yeah.
Minnesota they ran all over us like we used to run all over people. They had 56 points. I think.
Well, and they had over 400 yards rushing in
Yeah.
the first half.
Something like that. It was crazy.
And honestly, like, by that point during the season, I was more worried about kids getting physically hurt and wanting to quit football. Like, that's not something, I mean, like, when you watch some of these other teams, Rutgers is the team that you watch and go, man, I wouldn't want to play football for them.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're going to get physically hurt when you go play for Rutgers. You know, like, you go to play Wisconsin, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State. Your kids at that level, even though they're Division I, are a whole step below the other kids. And you're just waiting to see how many people get hurt, you know?
Yeah. Or Grant Wistrom used to say, you don't get hurt by playing your hardest. You get hurt when you don't.
Yeah. You can't take plays off.
Yeah.
And last year, I thought a lot of kids took plays off. Stanley Morgan, Nick Gates, Tanner Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he took quarters off, not even just plays.
Yeah, it was disappointing. And then to finish the season, you get destroyed by Iowa, too. I mean, that's 5 losses in a row that were just... The effort was just not there, and everybody was sure by then. It's like...
The season's over.
The season's over. Mike Riley's career here is over. Because of just the lack of effort. And I mentioned this to a guy I work with against Ohio State, which was in Lincoln. Ohio State's up 45-0. Yeah. And Urban Meyer is still over there on the sideline, pumping guys up, yelling at guys, getting in their face, working with positions and their coach. And Mike Riley's standing on the sidelines like a statue with his head down. It's like, come on, dude. That ain't good leadership.
Well, and people lead by example, and I never saw any fire in them. You know what I mean?
No, never.
And the person that I saw firing was their strength coach, and obviously we see the strength coach didn't really pay off, but that was the guy that was excited on the sidelines.
Yeah, Mark Phillips was his name. I like the guy. I don't know if Damon Benning said this on the radio too. He's like, I don't necessarily blame him for the lack of weight room production.
Well, Bill Moose stepped into the locker room. It was not. There wasn't any order, or he said it was in chaos. So imagine how the weight room was.
Yeah.
You know, and you can only put so many coaches into a weight room to help these kids. I mean, like, you have to have supervision, but you can't watch every kid every lift.
Yeah.
You know, and that's disappointing. I mean, it sounds like now, though, I mean, like Scott Frost, I mean, Duvall, it sounds like he runs it like a military. You know what I mean? And,
I think he does.
I think it needs to be that way. Like, these kids are going to war, you know, and the guy that's standing next to you should trust just as much as the guy that's sitting on the bench. And we didn't have that. We didn't have I would say some positions we probably didn't have a starter.
Yeah.
You know, we were just playing a guy to fill, you know, like the offensive line. We were just filling bodies sometimes, you know.
Yeah, they kept rearranging that, jumbling everything up. They burned Hymas's red shirt.
And that kid's
he's good. I'm glad he got to play this year, so he knows the college game. Because I think they're going to really turn him into a good left tackle.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's change subjects.
Okay.
Talk about your phone call this morning. When you dialed my number.
I dialed Paul's number.
Old number.
Old number. So when Paul first moved back up here, his number was a 913 number, which is Kansas. Now, when I called, it was somebody who definitely wasn't Paul. They were Hispanic. Definitely couldn't understand. I was thinking that it was Paul, so I called back again just to make sure that the number, possibly I didn't hit the wrong thing or anything like that, and definitely wasn't Paul. Yeah, I was a little shocked, so I hit him up on Facebook again, and his number had changed, and I didn't realize that because we tend to talk a lot on Facebook Messenger, which is...
Yeah, and I didn't realize that the times that you had called me recently had been a phone call through Facebook Messenger.
I didn't think about it either.
Yeah, so when you sent me a message, call me, I'm driving, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Then like text and drive, understandable.
Yeah.
So I call, I'm like, hey, what's up? And you're like, oh, is this your new number? I was like, oh yeah, man, I've had this number for 2 years, 2.5 years now.
Really sad. We're way behind on technology.
Yeah, we're still on Facebook. And
Right. Yeah.
It's all right. My parents don't even have Facebook, and my grandparents never had a computer. So there you go. And then
It's wild.
my kids do their homework on an iPad.
And no books.
There is no books.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't even have cell phones in high school.
And I think the funniest thing is, like, you know, now, I hate to say it, but we take them everywhere. Like,
Right. We're filming this podcast with mine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think it's crazy how many little kids have cell phones.
Yeah. And the fact of all the stuff they know how to do with them, that's a little scary. And I was talking to Matthew about this today. What makes somebody special now? You know what I mean? Like, as far as, like, all these people on YouTube.
Oh, keeping up with the Joneses.
Right. Like, it's amazing how many people make money off of filming videos like this.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
I don't make any money off of this. I'm just doing this because it's fun.
It is fun. But I mean, I hate to say this, we're getting beat out by a kid with Asperger's. Frankie McDonald, the guy that does the weather.
Yeah.
He makes money. He has action figures. Paul doesn't have action figures.
No action figures. I would like to have the Scott Frost action figure.
That would be pretty neat.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's some kind of raffle or something you have to put in to win one or something.
I do love the fact, like, the Frost Advisory T-shirts. I got the
got Frost.
Frost 18
Frost
shirt.
warning.
It says
Frost advisory.
right.
They're all pretty hilarious.
I got the Frost 2018. It says "Make Nebraska Great Again."
Right? Nice.
Now, wild story. So, like, in the gym, this guy had one of those shirts on, and I had to go find it because it was pretty awesome. Somebody freaked out and thought it was a Trump shirt, and it was pretty funny. They lit into this guy and then realized that he's wearing a Frost shirt, and it says "Make Nebraska Great." Good stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you gotta read before you get triggered.
That's true.
It's like
Very
that
true.
one girl that got punched being interviewed because at the college, I don't remember what college it was. The person thought she had a "Make America Great Again" hat. The hat said "Make Bitcoin Great Again." Dude, some dude
That's awesome.
punched her in the face while she was being interviewed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like, good grief, man.
But that's all social media. That's, you know, like, so
Yeah.
we enjoy this stuff, but then that kind of stuff is created by this too, you know.
Yeah. You watch the Olympics?
I saw the opening, a little bit of the opening ceremonies yesterday.
Which I did that just because my wife wanted me to. I'm kidding. But I do think that the opening ceremonies are kind of boring as hell.
They are.
And I don't understand North and South Korea joining forces
No.
either. I don't get that at all. I know Kim Jong-un's just trying to drive a stake in between the United States and South America, but who's really falling for that? I don't see anybody falling for it. I know South Korea wants unity, and maybe if things change, they'll be able to go up there and be humanitarians and teach the impoverished North Koreans
There
how to
is
live a
life
normal
outside
life.
of there.
There's more than one website, stuff like that. The only website in North Korea is run by the government.
That's pretty awesome. And they're so sheltered. And the funny thing is, every video that you see, yeah, oh yeah, and he doesn't. I mean, like, it's a state-sponsored everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that these people are provided that doesn't come from the state, which is sad.
I think they have the biggest capacity soccer stadium in the world,
Oh,
or something
yeah.
like that, and they have public executions in it.
Yeah, and they make, I mean, they make their people go. Like, it's not
they
like
make
you
it,
have to attend.
Like when Dennis Rodman shows up, they do the thing where everybody's lined up with the cards, and they raise the cards, and it has messages, and it's really amazing how it's choreographed, but they're forced to do it.
Right. Yeah, and the funny thing is, when they do promotional videos and things like that, everybody looks really happy and stuff like that.
They're forced. That's because there's a gun right behind the camera,
Right.
and if they don't smile, it's not going to leave.
Which is sad. We're at that point, you know, like we all talk about diplomacy and everything like that. It's sad that we're in 2018. We're still at that point.
Right.
You know.
It is sad.
It's crazy.
What's your favorite event in the Winter Olympics?
Oh, I'd have to say bobsled, man.
Bobsled's
I
pretty.
love
The
that.
2-man or the 4-man?
I like both.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. My favorite's probably the snowboarding half pipe, just because of Shaun White. And before I got married, Noelle had turned me on to Shaun White, and I was like, I don't really watch the Winter Olympics. I'm a Summer Olympics fan, but I really got into him because he's took the sport to such a high level, and the altitude he gets, the moves and the tricks that he can do.
And the funny part is, he tested positive for weed. And they still let him. No, I mean, and the funny part, I mean, like, because we're all worried about performance enhancing. Weed is not a performance enhancer. If anything, he's better than everybody, and he's high as a kite, which is hilarious.
Which I think Robin Williams had a statement in one of his stand-up specials a long time ago that the only reason weed would be a performance-enhancing drug if there was a giant chocolate bar at the end of the half pipe.
Right. So true.
That's funnier than hell. But yeah, I'm going to enjoy watching him in this one. He performs tonight, doesn't he?
I believe so.
The snowboarding is one of the. It's on today, tomorrow, and.
Now the craziest thing, like if you've seen Shaun White in the past Olympics, he's got really long red hair.
Yeah, and he cut it all off last time.
And he looks totally different. He actually looks like professional, which is weird.
Yeah, he looked like
normal guy.
He looked kind of goofy before.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does look like a professional now, and just the amazing things he can do with a damn snowboard is. It's unreal. But figure skating to me it's alright, I get it.
I still think that the most exciting figure skating was Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding. I'm sorry, it wasn't the clubbing or anything like that, but they were so much more talented. I mean,
yeah, I think at the time Tanya Harding was the first woman who could ever do a triple axel.
Right.
Is that right? And now they got people doing quads and all kinds of shit. But I don't know the difference between all those spins either. You got triple axle, triple toe loop, triple spin, well, there's 4 or 5 of them, and I think it's what foot you take off from and which one you land on.
Which one you land on, and like how many the revolutions. It's where your hands are, all that stuff. I mean,
I don't get it, but I just think somebody that can actually do something like that.
Pretty neat.
It is pretty neat, and. Oh, the one that kills me is the freestyle skiing where they go over all the bumps and your knees
the moguls
are just taking such a beating, and then they end up doing like a double flip off of a ramp.
Yeah.
I used to watch ski jumping.
Ski jumping is neat to watch.
It is neat to watch, but it's like, could you or I do that?
No.
Because it looks so easy. It looks like you're just going down a slide and then jumping.
So I hate to say it, it's almost like NASCAR racing. Okay, and you'll catch my drift here real quick.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that massive accident.
Right.
You know, like I hate to say it, we don't want somebody to get hurt, but you know when you're coming off of the ski jump like that, because we've all built ramps as a kid and ran shit off of it. You know, you're just waiting for that epic moment when you're like, oh, that ramp wasn't big enough. You know, and that's
those jumping skis are humongous skis.
Oh.
They're like 7-8 feet long.
Yeah.
Or maybe longer than that.
The trick jumping is probably the best out of that. The long distance one, they just glide. They look like a flying squirrel.
Yeah, and I'm always amazed how damn fast they can do the downhill.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've driven a car that fast.
So not to get political, but these athletes that are representing our country. One was Lindsey Vonn, and she mouthed off about it not being our president. Why can't you just go represent the United States?
Right, you're not representing just the president.
Right. I mean, like we love the Olympics because it's the Olympics and it's sports. We love it because it's the United States, and whether you like him or not, we're representing our country, and that's why I love the Olympics, because we're actually representing our people.
And by the way, did she set the record yesterday for number of times being on camera?
I believe so.
I lost count after a minute.
And I think it's because she spoke out. You know, like I hate to say that.
I think it's because she's hot.
Well, that too. I mean, like she is. I mean, let's not lie. I mean,
who was the basketball player for the Spurs? They used to show his wife in the stands.
Oh, like Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, what was his name? I know exactly who you're talking about.
They showed his wife in the stand. Nothing against her, but
Every
Showed
time
her
they
in the
played?
stands every time there was a cut. And my brother sent me a picture. It was a pie chart,
Yeah.
and it was broken up into a NFL football game. And the smallest slice of the pie was actual plays being run.
Right.
And then the next one was, I don't remember what the next one was, but the other two that were like 80% of the pie was TV commercials,
Yeah.
and then the biggest piece was people standing around.
Yeah.
I think the next biggest one was showing the coaches and people in the crowd. But
Yeah.
the biggest part of the whole football game was players standing around.
I think my favorite, like when you're watching any sports though, is when you know the cameraman's a perv, and he's panning right, like you're saying, to a player's wife or something like that. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, why are they showing her? Giselle during the Super Bowl. I don't know whether anybody noticed this, but they showed her like 5-6 times,
That's crazy.
and she was up in the booth. And you know that cameraman, you know Tom Brady's going, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
They did that to, oh God, who was that quarterback that played for Missouri? He was real good. He was a dual threat guy, white guy.
Chase Daniels.
Yeah, they showed his girlfriend so many times,
Yeah.
and didn't they eventually have to tell him to stop?
I think they did.
I think that's the first person that
The
told him
first
to quit.
time they filmed her, she had like the Missouri jersey, and it was tied up, like
Something like that.
It was tied up like short, like she had a midriff almost. And I remember that. That was bad.
That team had 3 chases on it.
Yeah,
Chase Daniel, Chase Kaufman, and I don't remember the other one. 2 quarterbacks
Yeah.
and a tight end.
yeah. They were good.
Yes, they were.
And then
Beat the
Gary
hell out of
Pinkel
us.
left,
Yeah. No.
and they went to the SEC. I killed him.
Where's he coaching now?
He's gone.
Is he?
Yeah, he had some kind of health issues.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yep. So several coaches lately have had health issues.
Yeah, is Ralph Friedgen still alive?
I don't think so.
And
Well, that one guy that was coaching out of Rutgers that was Minnesota's head coach.
oh yeah,
quit
he
again.
had the
Yes,
epilepsy, right?
epilepsy, yeah.
That
Yep.
was
and a heart condition too, I believe.
Jerry Kill.
Yep.
And then how pissed was Tracy Claeys when they didn't hire him as head coach?
Oh, yeah.
He was pissed.
But you know what? PJ Fleck's a good hire.
He is a good hire.
Yeah.
He's a very good hire. I remember this is college basketball, another coach that died, Rick Majerus, used to coach Utah.
Yeah.
Heart attack.
That's wild.
Yeah. He was just too damn big. I remember
Well-
Chris Rock, a few years ago when Patrice O'Neal died,
Yeah.
Chris Rock was on Opie and Anthony, and he said, hey man, look who we've lost lately. Patrice, Heavy D. He's like, fat's not good.
No.
You know?
No. But these guys were so big.
Oh, they were huge. And a guy that I work with, he was talking about Big Pun.
Yeah.
He didn't believe me when I said he used to be a fashion model. Back in the 90s, Big Pun used to weigh like 185
Kidding.
pounds. Yeah. He used to be, I think it was a clothing or jewelry model. Looks
Well,
like a completely different person.
Fat Joe, the guy that used to sing with him,
Yeah.
lost a ton of weight.
Yes, he
He's in
did.
much better shape.
Yeah. And
He almost looks like Pitbull now.
Yeah, when I saw a picture of him, because he said he started losing weight when Big Pun died, because they were friends.
Yeah.
And then, the other one I was thinking of was Ralphie May, the comedian.
Yeah.
He died.
Young. 30.
Yeah, he wasn't very old at all. I think he's my age, our age.
Yeah.
He died weighing 6'10".
Yeah.
He used to weigh 800. So he had lost 200 pounds and still weighed over 6.
And it was mobile. That's what's even crazier. He walked around on the stage.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know how strong his legs had
Oh,
to have been
had to be.
carrying that weight around all the time.
Crazy.
And then another one is Joey Diaz.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites. He's on the road all the time.
Gabriel Iglesias is still big.
Yeah.
He's still 400 plus pounds. He was 500 or 600 pounds.
Diaz said his heaviest, I think, was 415 or 430,
Yeah.
something like that, and he weighs under 300 now,
That's crazy.
something like that. And, Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer,
Yeah.
they had the weight loss challenge.
Yeah.
And Segura lost
Two really funny guys.
Yeah, he lost 30 or 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah.
I remember, and then Bert Kreischer kind of lost some weight. He's put it all back on now.
That guy cracks me up.
I love those guys.
Yeah, they're good.
Segura came to Lincoln in November, and he's coming to the Funny Bone on my birthday in June.
Benny Raven works there.
Yes, he does. Noel told me that.
Yeah.
And we went there a couple years ago to see D.L. Hewley, and I didn't see him there, but we were hoping he was working, but didn't see him. Got to meet D.L. That was nice. Got a picture with him. But yeah, Vinny, in 8th grade, I used to sit with him and Denny. And
Denny Arnold.
We used to just all three sit there and just make fun of everybody.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me that Vinny works in a comedy club.
He's such a down-to-earth dude.
Yeah,
I talked to him for quite a while at the reunion.
I haven't either. I haven't talked to him since 8th grade.
Yeah.
But, I think Noel said at the 15th class reunion he was there.
Yeah, he was here at the 20th. It was good. It was good. It was fun to talk to him. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to get in touch with him again. He always cracked me up, man.
He was good people.
He was a guy that always smiled.
Oh, yeah.
Always smiled. He was always happy, and he was always funny.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think I had a class with him. I just met him at lunch.
Yeah.
And just sat with him and Denny the whole year. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing, though, to see where these people are now. Because I never would have pictured Vinny at a comedy club. You know, like, he's funny.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he is, but like you said, you wouldn't think that he'd be there.
Especially because it's the Funny Bone. It's the most popular club here in Omaha as far as comedy clubs.
And it's a good place.
Yeah.
I would love to go back there again. And I think Diaz just rolled through the Funny Bone too.
Well, like you said, Segura's coming. They've had a bunch of people. We went and watched that Brad Williams, that midget guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's fantastic. You know, it was good stuff. I love the Funny Bone.
Yeah, it's a good place.
Yeah.
And we've only been there once, but we've gone to a lot of concerts since we've been up here.
Yeah.
We went to Neil Diamond last year.
That had to be fantastic.
That's the best concert we've ever been to.
Yeah.
And we've been to Eric Church twice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we went once, it's like 3 or 4 years ago, out in Iowa.
Yeah.
In the middle of some cornfield.
I heard about that.
That was on Rebecca's podcast.
That's awesome.
We show up, and it's the fairgrounds of this little town, and he performed. And the second time we saw him was at the Century Lake Arena.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool. And we saw Tim McGraw there and his wife. We saw Martina McBride last year. These are all country singers. My least favorite music, but good concerts nonetheless. But Neil Diamond took it, man. And we saw Lady Gaga last year. We saw her in August.
You know, and I would go, and I'm not a Lady Gaga fan, but that's somebody I would go watch.
It was a really good concert.
Just because it's an experience. Like, there's not going to be a lot of artists like that anymore. You know, like we see the de-evolution of music happening right now.
I don't know if you listen to rap or used to listen to rap.
I used to.
80s and 90s rap's about it. The early 2000s is when it just fell off. And even Eminem's not really that fucking amazing to me. If you go back and listen to his stuff, it's like, right, I get it, it's good, but...
You know, I go back and I listen to the stuff we listened to as kids. You know, stuff that my parents thought was just horrible.
Oh, my parents hated it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, took the CDs, smashed the CDs, so on and so forth. You know, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, all that stuff. They told a story, an actual story, and they told about their lives that actually happened to them. Now we're on the second and third generation, and you're a depressed kid, rich kid, that's rapping about how your parents an asshole because they didn't let you go spend their money.
That or Make It Rain or Look at My Jewelry.
Oh, and you know, here's the thing. Talking about women and money and stuff like that, every rapper has done it. Now it's entitled rappers. It's not a guy who's struggled to get where he's at.
And it's not creative either.
No.
One rapper I cannot stand, not even a gangster rapper, it's Pitbull.
Yeah.
You listen to a Pitbull song and you think it's somebody else's song that he's singing the chorus on.
Yep. Every time.
Every song's like that.
Well, and the amazing thing is that's the guy that you're going to see on the Grammy Awards, and the bands that we listen to, and I don't know how many we both listen to like together as far as like what we like, but we don't see the bands that we want to listen to.
No, definitely don't.
I mean, I go to all kinds of shows, and I've taken, different people to different shows. I like watching live music. I want to listen to something that I can understand, that makes sense. That's not just, like some of this new rap, it's hibbida, bibbida, bibbida, and you can't understand any of the words to it. I want to hear a story.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. And last February, I took the girls to see Ariana Grande. That was the Christmas present that Noel got for them.
Yeah.
And she ended up having her night class switched to that night, so I had to take them.
Yeah.
And talk about something that you can't understand.
Yeah.
It was too damn loud.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what she was singing about. The girls understood her. They listened to her music, so they knew what she was singing, so it made sense to them. But my God, I had to put my earplugs in.
Yeah.
It was so loud. I couldn't believe how loud it was, and it was drowning out her voice.
Well, the crazy thing is, so we grew up in the, in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, and some of the music was really loud. Like one of the bands that I've always wanted to see that I've never gotten to see was Iron Maiden, right? And they said they're one of the loudest concerts you'll ever go to. But everybody that's gone to see them says you can hear everything they say and every note they play. Like the one thing I will tell you, with rap, they turn the bass up so you can't hear. With some of the bad metal that's out, you just play faster and louder, to get rid of anybody not understanding what you're doing. And then with these pop songs, you just sing about bullshit, and people are like, "Oh, that's amazing," and you repeat the same 5 lines or 5 words over and over again.
Yeah. As far as bands, liked some of Metallica's stuff. I didn't really get into the heavy metal, like you're talking, like a little bit of Pantera, but not Iron. I didn't really listen to Iron Maiden. I couldn't really tell you what it was. Alice in Chains kind of like that too, kind of heavier, or were they?
Well, Iron Maiden did like Run to the Hills, like that kind of stuff. They weren't. How do I put this? They're kind of like your B-side band that really made it big.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They didn't have any really just gigantic hits, but they were really popular with a lot of people. They weren't like Metallica. Like Metallica spans generations and spans really diverse segments of the population. I mean, hell, even my mom likes some of Metallica stuff.
Nice. I got a Metallica story in a second, but so a little bit of Metallica. Def Leppard was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
AC/DC I loved, but my favorite band was Guns N' Roses.
Oh yeah.
I loved Guns N' Roses, man. Slash was on Opie and Anthony. That's a great interview. He talks about how they would show up at the studio. They'd pull together enough money from selling drugs to rent the studio long enough, and they used to show up with Tupperwares full of cocaine, cases of beer and Jack Daniels, and they would order like 20 pizzas, and they would write the lyrics on the pizza boxes when they were preparing another song.
If I'm right, Patience, the whole song was written on a pizza box.
I think that's completely right.
I believe so.
And wasn't Guns N' Roses Lies, that album, written in a weekend?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
And he also said that he was such an alcoholic that the reason he always has those mirror aviator shades on is because he's always sitting down, is because he was passed out for all the photo shoots.
Yeah.
Didn't even know he was there. But yeah, so. Anyways, my Metallica story. This goes back to our personal training backgrounds. Yeah. James Hetfield was on Joe Rogan last year, and he said that they're all old enough now that whatever instrument they play, that part of their body has something wrong with it, and each one of them has a personal trainer that goes on tour with them just to work them. Because he said for him. Okay, obviously the drummer, it's his wrists,
Yeah.
And then the one guitarist who always bends his knees real low.
Oh,
he has fucked up knees.
Yes.
And then Hatfield, I can't remember what he said was wrong with him.
Well, remember, he got lit on fire.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, like, personal training wise, you can't fix that, but I mean, that's one thing that happened to him.
Yeah, one guy has a bad back, but he said every single band member has a personal trainer.
Kurt Hammett has a bad back.
Okay.
Robert Trujillo's got the bad knees.
Okay.
He played for Ozzy, too, before he played for Metallica. Metallica story. Matt Lutz and I went to Metallica out in Des Moines. This is like 92. This is a Black album.
Okay.
My dad dropped us off and went to the horse races. I was like 14. You know what I mean? Like,
awesome.
You drop your kid off at a Metallica concert. It was me and Matt Lutz, and it was Danzig, Suicidal Tendencies, and Metallica.
That's cool.
And at 14, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't drop my kid off at 14 in the middle of Des Moines, Iowa to watch those bands.
Right.
You know, and that's back when they had hair, and Suicidal Tendencies was out of control. Danzig was out of control.
That's crazy.
You know, and that's I don't know. That's why, like, our music appreciation, when we talk about Guns N' Roses and Metallica, you're talking about true talent.
Yeah.
You know.
And a funny Slash story. He told this on the Opie and Anthony show. He said he initially had tried out, or not tried out, but interviewed for the lead guitarist for Poison.
Oh, God.
And he said they were talking to him. They were like thinking about hiring him, and they had this guy come in. And he goes, "Okay, here's your makeup artist, here's your hairstylist, and here's the clothes you're gonna wear." And he said, "I'm sitting in there in a pair of beat-up moccasins, a T-shirt, my jeans are ripped, and it's like, you're not doing my hair, I'm not wearing makeup, and I'm not wearing that shit." So they went out and they had a conversation, and when they came back in, he goes, "Look, I'm gonna level with you. I just don't think this is the right fit for me." And they said, "Yeah, we were gonna tell you no."
Yeah. I mean, you think about the guy who they filled, which was C.C. DeVille.
Okay.
I mean, like, C.C. DeVille is a pretty boy. Makeup. He still does makeup at this age.
Wow.
Like, they're coming this next summer.
Are they?
Oh yeah. So I mean, like, I saw Poison and Warrant back in '88. Okay, that.
Fourth grade.
Well, my dad took us.
Okay.
So, really funny story about that. My dad was like, "This is the most boobs I've seen since I got married."
Nice.
You know, I mean, and he hated Poison and Warrant. But seeing those guys, I remember getting in trouble at Springfield Elementary for having the Flesh and Blood shirt because they thought there were 4 women on there and it said Flesh and Blood. And it was Poison. So, I mean, if that tells you how much makeup they had on, it was insane. You know, great band, though, live. Great band.
That's crazy. Yeah, never saw anything like that in concert, that's for sure.
Well, and I think, you know, like, I missed out. I'm sure both of us have missed out on a lot of them that we wanted to see when they were in their prime.
We wanted to go, we were in college, and we wanted to go to Kansas City for the Up and Smoke tour.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome. Or I would have loved to have seen NWA live.
Oh, that would have been fantastic.
Jeez, man, that would have been something.
So I got to see, you'll laugh at this, this tour was hilarious. It was Limp Bizkit, System of a Down, and Method Man and Redman together.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And that was fantastic. And what a weird combination.
Well, Wu-Tang and Rage Against the Machine toured together.
Oh.
That ended up, I think, kind of halfway through being a disaster because some of the Wu-Tang Clan members didn't want to show up, and Old Dirty Bastard was drunk every night.
And high.
Yeah. When he died, he had 14 drugs in his system.
Yeah, 14 different drugs.
14
Completely
different drugs.
I mean, some were opiates, some were like speed, and I want to say he definitely had weed. I mean, there was some strange stuff in there.
Did you see the MTV thing where he was riding in a limo to go cash in his food stamps?
Food stamps, yeah. Yeah.
You talk about somebody that was just completely out of his mind.
Out of his mind, and like it just wanted to ruin the system, and he did. Because when that hit TV, remember the uproar it brought, like on national TV? They're like, hold on, this rapper just cashed in food stamps, and he makes millions.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
How much of that went to child support?
Oh, a lot.
Sure.
A lot. That's what's wild. I mean, like, the people that we grew up with were definitely individuals. Like there's nothing like them. I mean, even you were talking about NWA. Look at the guys that were in that band. You know what I mean? Each one of them was a major figure in rap. You know?
Yeah, they were. MC Ren, I tell everybody this. MC Ren's the most underrated rapper ever.
Absolutely.
He was a hell of a lyricist. He brought up rhymes that just were amazing. They were so fun.
So we were riding in the truck yesterday. When you and I were probably in junior high school, somewhere in there. House of Pain came out.
Mm-hmm.
And
94.
Yeah, it's like the only white rap group out there, right? You know, and these kids all think Eminem's good. Everlast is actually probably one of the most talented rappers I've ever seen.
And a lot of people don't know that Everlast was, Whitey Ford.
Right.
When he became Whitey Ford, he was the original lead rapper on House of Pain.
Yeah.
I've had people that have told me that are our age that don't believe that.
Right. And
After he had that heart attack, he completely changed everything.
Well, and he had kids too. Like he was heavily into drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they were out of control, and that's when he switched everything.
He smoked like 2 packs a day.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack in his 20s.
Yeah, late 20s, like 28, something like that. Yeah, he was in big trouble, and he changed everything. He still raps, but it's over a guitar rather than. Mm-hmm. And he's been on Joe Rogan several times.
Yeah, he gets really drunk on Rogan's podcast. You know, he used to be a Christian, then a Buddhist, and then he's a Muslim.
Yeah.
I think he's a Muslim right now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Strange.
He's really researched world religions.
He's different, but I mean, like, I like his music, everything he does. I mean, hell, he has a great song called "White Trash Beautiful." And if you listen to the lyrics to it, I mean, it's actually a really good song, and it's wild what he does.
Yeah, that's an interesting song, and the whole Whitey Ford Sings the Blues album's awesome.
Oh, that whole album.
The whole album's good. I had mentioned rap earlier, and my initial thought was, did you see Straight Outta Compton?
Oh, that was amazing.
That movie, we went to the theater and saw it.
Yeah.
That movie immediately made my top 5 ever.
Yep.
It was so well put together. It was so accurate.
All written by Ice Cube.
Yeah, him and Dre were producers.
Yep.
And they said, we're going to make this correct.
Yeah.
And it was, man. And they got excellent actors.
Well, I mean, hell, Ice Cube's kid plays
his dad in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, they got Suge Knight to a T.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, it was good. It was so accurate, and it was just a really good movie. I think they broke the record for the number of times they said "fuck" in a movie.
Yeah.
It was over 200 times.
Yeah.
And
got an R rating, not NC-17.
Right.
Yeah.
And they showed a lot of nudity too, which is pretty amazing. That it didn't get. But
well, and I think because it was more like a documentary.
Which basically it was.
Yeah.
It was a cross between a documentary and a concert.
Right.
Because I talked to some people at work, and they're like, that movie was awesome, man. It was like being at a concert. I was like, yeah, it kind of was.
It was.
Because we went to Kansas City, took my buddy, Noelle, and I actually got Noelle to go watch this movie. And she actually said it was a good movie, but, I mean, everybody was in the crowd was cheering every time something happened. Everybody was laughing their ass. I mean, it was like being at a party, basically.
Well, if you remember, I mean, rap, I mean, like, when we were kids, rap was, I mean, it was amazing. Like, it was, being a kid from the Midwest, I'm going to say this, being a white kid from the Midwest,
yeah,
and enjoying something that came out of such a violent area.
I think the first song I ever heard by NWA, it wasn't "Fuck the Police" or "Straight Outta Compton."
I was waiting for that.
It was, oh, damn it, what's the name of it now? It's on their second album.
Yeah.
I heard their second album before I heard their first one. I can't remember the name of the song now, but I thought MC Ren was going to come kick my ass just listening to that song.
Right.
And Ice Cube wasn't even on that album. He had left the group already.
Left the group. And that's wild. They get into him leaving the group and everything like that.
Oh, the name of the song is Real Niggas.
Yeah.
Yeah, MC Ren does the opening verse, and I just thought he was going to come through the tape player and kill me.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I never heard anything like that. And that was the first song by them I had heard.
Trying to explain to your parents what NWA meant too was not comfortable back then. Still isn't.
Yeah, I remember in the movie,
yeah,
he asks Eazy-E, what's it stand for? No whites only?
Yeah.
No whites allowed. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that actor, Paul Giamatti, played Jerry Heller to a T, too.
Oh, wow. Paul Giamatti, you want to talk about an underrated actor.
He is.
That guy's fantastic.
When I found out that was him playing him, I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And then you look at all the other movies he's made, it's like, oh, no shit, it makes sense.
Well, and when he did that deal for the History Channel, when he did the John Adams.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, like, what a diverse actor.
Yeah, that was about as good as Bryan Cranston playing Truman. Or was it
my
Truman or
God.
Johnson?
Truman, I believe.
Okay, because it was an HBO movie.
But Bryan Cranston, going from playing, he was Breaking Bad.
Yep.
You know, like he was in a couple of what was it? Not Malcolm in the Middle. What was the show that he was on?
Oh, I don't remember.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
though,
I do
right?
know what you're talking about. I just can't remember those.
And Rich Piana actually made a guest appearance on that show.
Nice.
And they had all the bodybuilders and everything like that. It was him and Bob Cicciarello and stuff like that. They all made an appearance on that, which is crazy. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off.
Oh, that's okay.
But Cranston, what an amazing actor.
And talking about how they nailed the actors in Straight Outta Compton, did you see All Eyes on Me? They got a guy that looks and talks
Just like Tupac.
just like him.
I saw a little
Exactly.
bit of it. I did not get to see the whole thing.
And when they got Straight Outta Compton at the end, Tupac's in it a couple scenes.
Yep.
The guy they got for that,
Yep.
I'm sure it's a different guy. He looked exactly like Tupac too.
You know, the one thing I will tell you, all these new rappers, having guys like Tupac and Biggie, you'll never have that again. Never.
No.
Where
Yeah.
20 years down the road, they're still remembering these guys and still doing tributes to them.
Yeah.
Never going to happen.
Notorious, the movie
Yeah.
about Biggie.
Oh, it was amazing.
Nailed that character.
Yep.
And then you talked about nailing Suge Knight in Straight Outta Compton.
Oh, yeah.
They nailed Suge Knight in All Eyes on Me.
Well, Suge Knight was such a bad guy. He even fucked with Vanilla Ice. If you remember that story about him hanging Vanilla Ice upside down
Yeah.
over a railing, threatening to kill him.
Yeah.
And they said legitimately that Vanilla Ice peed his pants
Sure
because he
did.
thought he was going to drop him.
And depending on who you talk to, that's a true story or not.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me. Because the other thing Suge's pretty famous for was after Dr. Dre left Death Row, him and 8 guys showed up at Dre's house with bats and demanded the rights to the Chronic.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, I guess I'll hand these over.
And I think, you know, like probably the best album out of that era was The Chronic.
Oh, it's still my favorite.
You know, like I remember when that came out, and I remember it hitting Platteview, and everybody had it.
Oh, yeah, I remember riding the bus from Normandy Hills,
Yep.
and I don't remember who it was. It was a guy in high school. He had his Walkman, and
Yep.
he had the speakers that you plugged in, and everybody was sitting back there
Yep.
jamming to the Chronic on the way to school.
And we're talking about a bunch of white farm
There's
kids.
not one black person on the bus.
No. You know, and it amazes me because, like, we're out in the middle of nowhere, literally, when we were kids. There was nothing
Yeah.
around here.
Our school's in the middle of not a town, it's a
Cornfield.
country.
And, you know, like, growing up and listening to that. And not so much that we continued to listen to rap because it never got better.
No, not since the 90s.
No. And, you know, the stuff they put out later and stuff, you know, like, I can appreciate Snoop Dogg and I can appreciate the stuff Dre put out later. It's not the same.
No, and we talked about the creativity, how different Outkast was, how different
Oh,
the
yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan was. The Wu-Tang Clan was so different that there's a lot of people who don't even like them.
Right.
Because they don't understand them.
No.
Ghostface has some of the weirdest ways he puts lyrics together.
But his collaboration with Mary J. Blige,
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And he did one with Amy Winehouse, too.
Yep.
She had her album out, and that song, You Know I'm No Good, she does it all by herself. And then she did a remake with Ghostface. He does 3 verses,
Yeah.
and she does the chorus. And then they re-released her album with that song on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy
Well,
good.
they were super talented. A lot of people don't get it. Like they used to talk about it. It was nine chambers, and it's not. And, sorry,
36 chambers. Yeah.
9 people, 4 chambers in each heart. It was pretty neat. I mean,
Yeah,
how they explained it.
Yeah, and I remember in college VH1 did a special on them, and they went through all that. I was like, there's that many spaces on a chessboard, and
Yeah.
the change of your heart, and then I think there's 36 pressure points on your body.
Yep.
I mean, there was just all the stuff they went through.
All these different things.
It was crazy. And RZA was, next to Dr. Dre, the best producer.
Well, and these guys have branched out. They do movies. They do, like their own albums. I mean, they produce all that stuff. They're all very talented.
It got to the point where I had all their group albums, and I couldn't keep up with their solo albums. And RZA also he did an indie, Use Your Imagination, or I can't remember what the title of it is. It's all in foreign languages.
Who was it? Was it RZA that did Man with the Iron Fist? Yeah.
Yep. He did the soundtrack for that and Afro Samurai.
Yeah.
And he was in Man with the Iron Fist with was it Russell Crowe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that from Redbox. It was interesting.
It's definitely interesting. It's one of those ones you would rent from Redbox.
Yeah.
That or Netflix.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Super talented though, and that's a band, like you said, that not everybody liked.
Yeah, I don't get some bands and some people that were huge rap fans.
Right.
I had a roommate in college that he's like, I don't like Wu-Tang, man, turn that off. Put something else in. I'm like, alright, it's fine. But yeah, when Jay-Z dropped, that was pretty awesome.
That was different.
And he doesn't even write his lyrics down, they're all in his head.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Amazing.
Well, and when you listen to him, like, it was a whole different sound. It was that there was a West Coast sound and an East Coast sound, and there was a definite difference. And some people really like the West Coast sound, and some people like the East Coast sound. And I found I like both of them.
Yeah, I like both, and I like the Southern sound that Outkast brought. I think
Outkast, Andre 3000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's my favorite rapper actually.
I mean, they just kind of fell out.
Yeah, they ended up being completely different. After the first album, Andre quit drinking and doing drugs, and Big Boy, of course, did even more, I think.
Right.
But there was a story in Blaze magazine that talked about, this is after they dropped the Stankonia album, so they're 4 albums deep already, and they talked about they each had their own tour bus.
Yeah.
And on Andre's tour bus, it's like incense, healthy foods, soft music, decorations. Big Boys is everybody smoking weed playing the PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2. That's so bad. So bad.
Yeah, that's funny. And then, what else was I thinking about? Oh, we mentioned the Chronic album. And I think it was Jay-Z in an interview. He said, he's from Brooklyn. And he said, man, back when the Chronic album dropped, and it might be the wrong person. I can't remember if Jay-Z said this or not. Some rapper from New York said, when the Chronic album dropped, you knew it was a success because we're in New York and they're in L.A. And one time I was standing on the corner, and every car that drove by in New York had a different song from the Chronic, Chronic playing.
Well, like I said, we're in the middle of nowhere. Listening to the Chronic.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, as much as we listen to it, nobody from the Midwest is hardcore.
No.
And hear the stuff that came out of their mouths, and just hear something that was totally different. You know what I mean? Like, that revolutionized rap. The Chronic was,
it was
set it on its side and turned it backwards.
Public Enemy took it to a level. NWA took it even higher than that, and then Dre with the Chronic was just like, this can be so musical on top of it. And then with Snoop Dogg, it's like he had the most sing-songy rap voice of anybody.
And I hate to say it, like he was almost like a Pied Piper.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would listen to it and it would just wrap you in.
You ever listen to 213? Because at the same time NWA had their thing, Warren G, Snoop Dogg, and Nate Dogg were doing 213.
Yep.
And Warren G's Dr. Dre's stepbrother.
Right.
And he would always go to Dr. Dre's parties, NWA parties.
Yeah.
And Snoop Dogg said this.
Give him the tapes.
Yeah, he said, "Yo, man, I want you to meet my brother Dre." And Snoop Dogg was like nervous. He's like, "Nah, I don't want to interfere, man, because the NWA's doing their own thing. I don't want to act like I'm trying to step in." But yeah, that ended up being one of the greatest connections he ever made.
Well, I mean, Snoop Dogg's first album, that was fantastic.
Great album.
You know, like, and I can remember I got that taken away. You know, because the cover was pretty, you know, sketchy. You know,
and it was a cartoon.
It was a cartoon of dogs.
Well, I remember my dad when I had the Chronic album when I got it on CD. I was in college.
Right.
But the CD has just a picture of a cannabis leaf on it.
Right. No big deal.
And remember the 2001 Dr. Dre album?
Had a cannabis leaf on the CD.
It had that on the CD, and it had it on the front, and then on the back, the picture's Dr. Dre in front of his mixing board, smelling a bag of weed.
Yep.
Or maybe that's the inside art.
I think that's the inside art. I think
he's
you're
sitting
right.
there smelling a bag. It's awesome. It's
That's
so
amazing.
funny, too, though, at the same time. And Nate Dogg, rest in peace.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. To be 40-something years old and die of a stroke.
Right. But all super talented. Like, not, I mean, like, on a whole different level.
Yeah.
You know, like, Snoop just came out with his football league, the Coach Snoop.
Yeah.
And he's got, what's the guy's name? He was a rapper from back in the day, too. MC Mac or whatever. And he was in another group along with, you know, when Snoop was with Nate Dogg and Warren G. And he's his assistant coach. And these guys are all rappers that are coaching football. It's hilarious.
That's cool.
You know, I mean, the talent from back then just far, I mean, like, eclipses everything that's out right now. I mean, Lil Wayne is a blip on the radar compared to those guys.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, the talent that's coming out now is all studio produced, and none of it is legit. I mean, like, you don't hear of somebody coming out of Compton. You don't hear of somebody coming out of Detroit or out of New York City.
And they only come out with singles on YouTube and iTunes. It's rare to have a whole nice album released anymore.
Well, it's something that you listen to front to back.
Right.
I mean, there's rap albums and rock albums and everything like that where you listen to a couple songs, but the Chronic, it was like you put it in and you just left it.
Yeah,
You know,
and they even made them that way too. They'd have the CD itself would have an intro, they had interludes, and they'd have an outro.
Right.
All the Outkast albums were that way. It was put together a certain way. Yeah, there was a point where I had the second NWA album memorized, the whole album.
Yeah.
I had the Chronic album memorized, Doggy Style memorized.
Yeah.
All Eyes on Me was 2 CDs, and I had that
Oh, yeah.
memorized. And then I had about half of Wu-Tang Forever, which was another 2 CDs.
Well, those 2 CDs, yeah.
And there was like 30 songs on it. Well, probably more than
I think
30.
there were 36.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
they-
36,
I
yeah,
think
makes
they
sense.
did 36, yeah.
And I had a lot of those memorized, and some of those songs had 6-7 verses. And then I had a lot of Outkast memorized too.
Well, and like I
That's
said,
just how much I listened to it.
but there's songs like they told a story.
Mm-hmm.
This shit now is just, I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, I listened to some of it and I'm just going, how, like, your brain cells just start blowing up. You're like, this is dumb. This is really
Oh,
dumb.
and speaking of album you can listen to front to back, MC Hammer's Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em.
Yeah.
We Can't Touch This, Here Comes the Hammer, Dancing, Dance Machine, Pray. And still, to this day, the only single rap album to go diamond.
Yeah.
The only other 2 that went diamond, or 2 or 3, was Tupac's All Eyes on Me.
Yep.
Because when you sell a double CD, it counts as 2
Right.
when you sell 1 unit. And Biggie's Life After Death.
Yep.
And then I think the other one was Outkast double album.
Yep.
They each had their own CD. I think all 3 of those went diamond, but they're all 3 doubles. And MC Hammer's single disc went diamond. And isn't that 10 million?
I believe so.
Gold's 500,000.
I believe so.
Platinum's $1 million.
Yep.
Diamond's 10
In the
million.
first week. Is it right? Or, sorry, in the first month. or
First
whatever.
month? I
Something
really don't
like that.
remember. but
It was wild.
we were in 6th grade.
Yeah. And he blew all that money.
Yeah. Yeah. And it didn't blow as much as Tyson.
No.
I think Hammer went through like 40 or 50 million.
Yeah.
Tyson went through 300 million.
Yeah.
Can't even fathom going through.
Well, and at one time he had 2, you know, they had the tiger that he had. He had 2 white tigers at one time.
He had 7 Rolls Royces, one for every day of the week.
Right.
You ever read that autobiography?
No, I'm sure.
Undisputed Truth.
That's amazing.
Had a big part, and you know that he helped write it or wrote most of it
Yeah.
because fuck is in almost every sentence.
Yeah.
And it's almost 700. It's between It's almost 600 pages or almost 700 pages. I mean, it's a huge book. Brutally honest in it.
Yeah.
Brutally honest. I mean, it's nuts. And then by the end of, just a few years ago, he talks about him and his current wife. They're counting items they have in their shopping cart to make sure they have enough money to pay for them.
Yeah.
That's where he went from.
Well, if you think about that, I mean, like, the guy was so talented as a youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So troubled, too. And to have Don King screw with his money the whole time. Imagine the amount of money he would have had if he didn't have Don King.
Yeah, Don King used to charge him $14,000 a month for towel service.
Yep.
Just to have the towels in his house washed.
That's crazy.
But
Unbelievable.
there's crazy stuff like that. I remember reading a thing that said Madonna spends $20,000 a month on wine.
I believe it.
Something like that.
I believe it.
Maybe even more than that. It's
Yeah.
in the tens of thousands how much she spends on just wine per month.
That's wild.
It better be some good ass wine.
Well, I mean, when you got that kind of money, I mean, like, I guess if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I mean, like, hell, I can't imagine having her money. Like, she's related to Lady Gaga too. To speak of people that have a lot of money, she, at her age, you got to remember every movie that they put her songs into or any likeness that they use, they're getting paid all the way down the road.
Yeah.
And Madonna's still doing shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Yeah, I'd go see her.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We always talk about the things we wouldn't go see, but some of these artists, you're never going to see somebody like them again, ever.
And AC/DC. Speaking of being kind of, was it Malcolm Young died?
Yeah.
And then last 2 years or whatever, Brian Williams
With the band.
he forgot his earplugs at a race car event and then at a concert and basically ruined both of his ears.
Well, he'd already had ear problems too,
Okay.
and that's why it got much worse. Like he was going to go deaf.
I think he was deaf for a while until he had surgery.
And it's sad because their original singer Scott died, and I think Brian was probably the best replacement for him. I never got to see him, but boy, that would have been amazing.
It would have been a hell of a concert.
Axl Rose actually ended up finishing up that tour for him.
Yeah, he did. Which
In
I
the
thought was
cast.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, man, we did over 2 hours.
Yeah, we did.
This will be uploaded Monday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a hell of a good time.
Yeah.
I gotta get home and eat dinner before my wife kills me.
I'm pretty sure mine's gonna kill me.
See you later, everybody.
That was fun.